Good evening, and welcome to Tuesday, September 18, 2018, 7 p.m. regular council meeting. Tonight, the invocation will be led by Pastor Mason Okubo from the Ismail First Lutheran Church. Would everybody please rise? And then the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Wu.
Mayor, council members, thank you. I ask your blessings and wisdom to be upon our city council, that they may carry out your will in guiding our city. Send your Holy Spirit among us, that we might work together in harmony for the good of the people of West Covina. We thank you for all who give of their time and talents to serve our city, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Very well, please follow my lead. Ready? Go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Assistant City Clerk, a roll call, please.
Councilman Spence?
Here.
Councilmember Toma?
Here.
Councilmember Warshaw?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wu?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here. City Attorney, anything to report out of closed session?
Mr. Mayor, no reportable action was taken in closed session this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, any changes to the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only one, and that is on your consent calendar, number 9, the authorization to issue lease revenue or refunding bonds, Series 2018. We'd like to take that item and have an individual report and remove that from your consent calendar, if we may.
Okay. Now we have a presentation. And since I don't have to call the chief down, he's already here, I'll now let him do the presentation. Chief?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor to be here tonight to recognize Gino. So she started with the police department back in 1984 as a records clerk. But before she was a records clerk, she was an explorer for about 5 years. And then she moved on to Records Clerk 2. She was interim records supervisor for a period of time. During that time, she found a passion to be a public safety dispatcher. So besides working her records position, she worked part-time in our comm center dispatching. That wasn't enough for her, so she took on the role of an Explorer advisor and really put a lot of effort into our Explorer post. And then in 2004, she decided that she liked the dispatching more than the records and made the move and transferred over to dispatch full-time. So, I mean, Gina's one of those people, you know, I don't know when she sleeps because it's like she's always here with all these things. She's the projects and everything. You know, she's really well respected in the organization. You know, there's a lot of people here tonight just to come see Gino and, you know, have a good time with her. She's really deserving. We're really going to miss her. She's done a great job for us. She's the kind of person that comes to work every day and just does a great job, works hard, and we really appreciate it. So on behalf of the police department, congratulations, but we're definitely going to miss you. And I'm going to let you say a few words because I know you want to. So.
I just love to talk. Thank you all for coming and supporting me on my retirement from the city. I really appreciated working for the city. It's wonderful. It's a little bigger than Covina, but that's okay. I loved working for the city of West Covina. It's a very beautiful city. We've had very beautiful people working here and leaders that have led this city to a high. And I wish that things get better and everybody enjoys it as much as I've enjoyed it for the past 39 years that I've been with the city of West Covina, being from La Puente. So I thank you all for coming. I appreciate your thoughtfulness and caring and I want to be able to see most of you, well, most of you, I'll see most of you often. So thank you for coming, and thank you for being my friends, co-workers, and I wish you the best of luck for your retirements. Thank you very much to everybody.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we do have something for you here. And this is your own street sign. Gino Boulevard.
Good job, Gino. This side of the room, tilt a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
Let's give a couple minutes. I think
Yeah, we're going to take 5 minutes and give a chance for everybody that wants to leave, they can now. Okay, now it's the time that we're going to do for oral communication. All those who are wishing to speak, if you filled out a yellow card, give it to our Assistant City Clerk and she'll call you up. Okay.
Our first speaker for tonight will be Angie Gillingham, followed by Elsie Messman.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm just here to remind everybody I represent the WCIA. I would just like to remind everyone this Wednesday, the 26th, not tomorrow, but the following Wednesday, will be District 4 candidate forum. We look forward to seeing everyone here at 7 o'clock, 6:30 to meet and greet. Other than that, oh, by the way, it will be televised. You can watch it on YouTube or on the Spectrum Channel 3 if you would like. So we look forward to seeing everyone that night, 6:30 on the 26th. Hope to see everyone. Thank you.
Next speaker, Elsie Messman, followed by Ray Edmondson.
Mayor, council, staff, and everyone here today and at home, my name is Elsie Messman. First of all, I think the fire department and police unions should stay out of the election. They should help all the residents of West Covina. Instead of calling for donations, use the money for scholarships or worthy causes. We should not get carried away on fees, as it may backfire. No company wants to pay a lot of money for fees or charging for petty items. This is supposed to be a friendly city. Is this the only thing the staff can come up with? We are not breaking any records, bringing new business into the city. Why? Regarding the article in the paper about residents leaving the city for restaurants, cafes, and bakeries, and that certainly is true. A few restaurants coming to the city of West Covina are mostly in one area. The south side goes to Valley Boulevard, and there are thousands of people living there, and we don't even have a decent restaurant. When we go, they give us plastic forks and knives. We had 2 supermarkets on Nogales and Puente Road, so now we don't even have supermarkets there. And believe it or not, we do eat. In fact, my neighbor came before I came here wanting an onion because she had to drive to Azusa and Amar to the closest store to get 1 onion. Numerous people have suggested solar panels at BKK. And has this been looked at, or are we waiting for a check from Southern California Edison? We could also be charging gardeners a fee of $50 a year instead of charging people $10 to have alarms. We have 6 different gardeners on my street. That's $300. And we have 7 alarmed homes. That's $70. A difference of $230. And I live on a cul-de-sac. So I think that should be looked into because I think people are tired of being, well, you know the rest. Thank you.
Ray Edmondson, followed by Bill Elliott.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council staff. I want to talk about 3 items tonight. Item 21 is the first one. I actually agree with Councilmember Spence's arguments last time about the mayoral rotation and how you could have, I feel fairly easily, a spoiler, somebody who is not entering a race in good faith to siphon votes away from somebody to make it more likely that somebody in another district can win the mayoralship. So I have a suggestion. So I don't know if any of you guys played Dungeons and Dragons, but we use dice to figure out turns. So when you enter combat, you roll a d20, and whoever rolls the highest goes first. And we could also, you guys could all roll a d20, and whoever is first, that's who the mayor is, and second is Mayor Pro Tem, and you could go down. We could also just roll this d6. I know you guys all have a Monopoly set at home, and you could figure out the rotation that way. So, or pick names out of a hat, however you guys want to do it. But I do agree with Councilmember Spence's arguments last time. I Number 6, which was on the consent calendar, is have we looked at using local high schools or colleges having like an internship program running our digital stuff? Because I know $80,000 seems kind of pricey, and I know a lot of, like, at the high school I teach at, I'm sure the students would love an opportunity to get some hands-on work and get something on their resume. So have you looked into, part of it having students or interns doing it? And the third one is item number 20, which is the letter about the death row inmate pardoning. I have some statistics because I like statistics for you guys. So since 1999, 161 death row exonerations were in California from the Los Angeles-based California Innocence Project. From a study from the University of Michigan Law School that was in 2014, they looked at death row convictions from 1973 to 2004, and they found of the 7,482 convictions, 117 ended up being exonerated while they're on death row, and that was a 1.6% exoneration rate. But the authors think that because of the limits of time and resources, the more accurate number is 4.1%. So we currently have 747 people on death row in California. If the author's number is right, 4.1%, then 31% of those people that are currently waiting for the state to be executed are possibly innocent. So I know that we have 3 people who have done harm to West Covina residents who are on that list, but I don't want our luster vengeance on those 3 people to result in the deaths of 30 others. Thank you.
Bill Elliott, followed by Jerry Patras.
Good evening, City Council, my fellow Americans. The whole death penalty thing I want to say first, polyclass. Richard Allen Davis kidnapped and raped and murdered 12-year-old Polly Klaas. He was tried, he was convicted, he was sentenced to death. He deserves to die for what he did. And unfortunately, there is a lot of people just like him on death row. Say no to the liberal spin of the death penalty. Say no to that clown, Jerry Brown. Let him know West Covina stands for the rule of law. We should be a rule of law city. I'm going to skip what I planned to say at first. I want to get on to the 2nd District Candidate Forum. First of all, before I say that, I'm sorry, I want to address the homeless grassroots organization that just started here in West Covina that we had down at the district office, which drew like 2 or 3 times the amount of people that normally show up for a city council meeting on the very first meeting. You know, on West Covina Insider tonight on Facebook, I want you to look. Somebody 14 minutes ago just posted, somebody set up a homeless camp right on Glendora Avenue. You know, it's the Glendora bus stop. And they've been there before and they've been removed, they just keep coming back. We have to find a solution for this. This is a big problem. The 2nd District, too many softball questions, too few substantive answers, 0 questions from the voters. The answer periods were way too long and begs for a new format that allows the voters to ask questions. I personally don't trust any moderator that wears a bow tie. Lying Brian Gutierrez showed up on time this time, and it went downhill from there. Rules do not apply to him. He's wholly unqualified. He droned on with his scripted answers and told us all multiple times about his pity appointment by Jerry Brown. He's anti-Second Amendment, a longtime associate of Gil Cedillo, and shamelessly advocates for AB 54 and illegal aliens over American citizens. He's a racist, a poser, a liar, and a fraud. His campaign mailer asserted that he has the support of our police and fire, when in fact that is an outright lie. he had politicians like Obama and the Clintons and the disgraceful Kamala Harris and Mayor Gil Garcetti of Los Angeles all embracing, wearing a Dodger uniform and all these fake photos that he has. He's such a fraud. He has no business on the West Covina City Council. On the other hand, we have notorious retread Roger Hernandez, who's also a candidate in the 2nd District. Isn't he going backwards, folks? Perhaps he's never heard the old saying, be nice to everyone on your way up the ladder, because you'll see those same people on the way back down. My dear mother used to tell us kids a story about a frog and a snake. The little frog wanted to pass the road. He wanted to cross the road, but this big snake was there. And he said, hey, Mr. Snake, can I cross the road, please? The snake said, sure, go ahead, no problem. And the frog's not so quick to trust. And he said, hey, Mr. Snake, you're really not going to get me now, are you? You promise? And he goes, I don't even like the taste of frogs. Besides, I just had lunch. Go ahead, pass. It's no big deal. So the frog thanks him, and he starts his way across the road. And just then, the snake pounces on him. And he bites him in the head, and he wraps his body around him and constricts him. And as the frog is losing consciousness, he said, but you promised not to get me. Why? And the snake said, but you knew that I was a snake. I hope the District 3 voters keep that in mind come November.
Jerry Patros, followed by Gary Chow.
Good evening. As a resident, you've seen me in my other hat about Palmview Park. I love you guys tonight for buying that house. On behalf of the residents in that neighborhood, we appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing what happens. We'd love to have open space. Adding park land to the city is just wonderful. It is, we need it. And as density comes and people have less backyards, the park becomes so much more important. Thank you on behalf of myself and the other people. You did a good job. I think the price was fair. I think it's difficult to negotiate with, for any public agency to negotiate with a private sector, the private home. I think you did a good job, and I just want to go on record once in a while of giving a compliment when a compliment is really due. The other compliment I'm doing this tonight, is the salary schedules and department head and the reorganization. If my understanding from what I have read is correct, I think that is a good approach. It's what I've seen done. And I would like to way I understand it, there are department heads who are going to go without a raise. I've been there. I understand what they're being asked to do, and I thank them for that too. It's not easy, but they're showing a dedication and a leadership that, as this resident, appreciates. Lastly, as a previous resident said on the mayor rotation, I'll just add something in addition to his dice, a deck of cards, split it, pull straws, draw names out of a hat, but please do something in the best interest of the city. I'm one of the many residents that actually would like to see something done. Thank you.
Gary Chow, followed by Gustavo Herrera.
Good evening, council members. My name is Gary Chow. I am a Mount Sac trustee. I'm here to talk a little bit about Measure GO, which is the bond measure on the November ballot. I'm going to talk numbers because I'm a number guy, and I'm followed by two other individuals to talk a little bit more about the bond. The first thing is, how much is the bond? The bond is for $750 million. Let me put that in perspective. The college district covers about 9 K through 12 school districts. And if you divide $750 million by 9, you get about $83 million per school district, which is in that perspective is not an unreasonable amount. So our bond, we do not believe, is an unreasonable amount given the size of our district. What does the bond cost? For the average homeowner whose assessed value is about $400,000, the bond will cost $25 per $100,000. That means about $100 a year, roughly a little over $8 per month. So the question is, what do you get for $8 a month? Well, what we get at the college is we get a university-type atmosphere. We eliminate the 50-year-old buildings, and we have a better facility for the students of the total about 50,000 students. A little bit about the demographics of the students. 75% of the students are on financial aid. The average time it takes a student to graduate with their AA degree or get their a vocational certificate is about over 5 years. 30% of the students have food insecurity issues, which means they don't always have enough food to eat. 15% of the students do not have a permanent place they can call home. A lot of the students come to Mount Sac not because it's their first choice, but a lot of times it's their only choice. So tonight, I'm the first of 3. I wish to ask the City Council and the residents of West Covina to support this Measure Go on the November ballot. I would like to personally thank Councilmember Toma for his support of the bond. I would hope that all of you can see beyond the noise and the dollars, that this bond is really, really very beneficial for the demographics of the students. And we as trustees have not lost the importance of this bond for the type of student who attends Mount Sac. Thank you very much.
Gustavo Herrera, followed by Forrest Wilkins.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Gustavo Herrera, and I'm a West Covina constituent and also a Mount Sac Foundation board member who cares deeply about our community and the future of our great city. And I see Mount Sac as a vital part of that future. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts today. As Trustee Chow mentioned, the bond measure is designed to fund the master plan, and if approved, the funds will do 2 very important things for West Covina. One, it will support Mount Sac's vital role in our community of providing high-quality, affordable college education and job training to our students. Some West Covina specific data for you. This fall, 9.8% of the Mount Sac students are from West Covina. Additionally, this bond measure will allow for the expansion of programs like Mount Sac Early College Academy, which, as you know, is a dual enrollment partnership with West Covina Unified. This program enables students to earn a high school diploma and up to 2 years of transferable college credits simultaneously. In California, where the average student debt for a 4-year college student is $22,000, this is a great initiative to build upon. I believe it's critical that we invest in our local community college because of our city and state. It really depends on a well-educated workforce with the skills and abilities needed to fill the jobs that are changing and growing rapidly every single day. Mount Sac continues to be the largest training program in all of Los Angeles County. It is a primary source for training our community firefighters, nurses, and other key medical professions. It's for these reasons that on November 6th, I urge for you to vote yes on Measure Go. Thank you.
Forrest Wilkins, followed by Laura Santos.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, fellow citizens in the audience and that might be viewing. I have no joke this evening. I want to talk seriously. Oh, I hate to disappoint you. I guess I have to say something, right? Okay. Why did the coach go to the bank? because he wanted his quarterback. Last council meeting, the city attorney acknowledged that the city paid $550,000 on a settlement, correct? Oh, she's not moving her head. Anyway, it was because of a former policeman. He was an LA police officer for, I don't know, 5-7 years and so forth, and he came as a veteran to West Covina, and there was some rumor about he was mistreated, and so he sued the city, and the city settled for $550,000. When I approached the podium, I had heard it was between $1 and $2 million, and I thought the city attorney said it was $550,000. It was settled and so forth. Just a little reference where I'm coming from. I became a policeman in December of 1969. I hit the street in May of 1970. Along about the 73, 74, throughout the United States, they started what they call the POST program. POST stands for Police Officer Standard of Training. When I was on probation, basically at the end of watch, there'd be a sergeant checking the watch in and so forth, and the sergeant might say to a training officer, "Hey, how'd the kid do?" You know, yeah, thumbs up or whatever, you know. But under the POST program, there are certain criteria you have to meet, such as a new officer. He goes out in the field and so forth, so the training officer is observing him, you know. If he's driving the car, is he driving in a reasonable manner? Is he making a traffic stop? Is he doing all the safety procedures? Is he very knowledgeable in the vehicle code? And yada, yada, yada. And all those things are checked off. So my point is, if we have an officer on training, he has some training officers. Were they checking the box? Were they adding a line, how proficient he was? And then there is supervision. Is the sergeant observing that? And then there's a lieutenant. Is he checking on the training for this rookie policeman? Is he having a conversation with him like, well, this guy came from a large organization. Maybe I have a conversation with him and he could say, well, we did this over there. And he could say, well, we don't do that because of blah, blah, blah. Or maybe that's a good idea. Communication. And what about the captain? Is he observing all this training that goes on? And then the city attorney volunteered and said, well, if there's some misconduct, then we'd create an investigation. Well, I'm suggesting that this might be misconduct when the city has to pay $550,000. I mean, I realize that doesn't buy your house, Councilman Wu, but there's a lot of houses in West Covina you can buy for $550,000. So I think there should be an independent investigation on why this officer got a settlement for $550,000. That's money out of our pocket. And then at the end of oral communications, I didn't hear any comment from any of you guys. I would expect some comment from the city manager. Do you have $550,000 to pay out, Mr. City Manager? There should be a red flag there. Why isn't there an investigation to see why this officer did not get treated fairly, if that's the case? But why weren't the check points in system, why weren't they followed? Why wasn't the training officer conversing with this individual? If he was a problem, why wasn't that documented? Why wasn't the supervisor say, this is a problem? Why does it have to go to court and $550,000 is paid out of the city coffers? I would appreciate some comments on why we have to pay out $550,000, and there should be an investigation why that happened. I'm talking about the training officers, I'm talking about the sergeant, I'm talking about the lieutenant, I'm talking about the captain. Our current chief of police, that happened before he got here, so he gets a pass. But what about those other people? You want another joke? Why don't you share one with us? Council, $550,000. Remember when Councilman Wu was running and so forth, he made, one time he says, I got money to pay for that. Remember that, Councilman? No. How about the rest of the council? He made a comment about there was some reference, and he says, I can pay for that. Thank you. Remember, $550,000 out of the city treasury.
Laura Santos, followed by Chris Miller.
Good evening. I'm here also to encourage you to endorse and support Measure GO for Mount SAC. I represent a portion of West Covina on the Mount SAC College Board. So, you know, Mount SAC was founded in 1946. It was formerly a military base and a hospital, and we're still working out of some of those buildings. So it's almost like two campuses now. We have a big, beautiful new business building, state-of-the-art, a lot of cubby holes where the students can study. They don't have to go and sleep in the stacks in the library between the stacks. There's outlets everywhere so that their laptops and their phones don't run out of charge. But then we still have some of the buildings, the original buildings, that really need to be demolished, you know, and air conditioning that doesn't work. And our students deserve better. We have fabulous programs there, programs to help students transfer for four-year universities, career technical programs where they can make big bucks after they spend a small time earning a certificate. And we even have 9 bachelor degree programs. So your students can earn a bachelor's degree at a reasonable price. Our student services, since we have an economy of scale, since we're one of the biggest community colleges in California, geographically we're the size of UCLA, we were able to provide a lot of services for our students, for our veterans, for our disabled, for our honor students. We have a fabulous athletic program, and we've won 40 state championships in the last 25 years, and some community colleges haven't even won one. But we also have an academic program for our athletes. We make sure they know their students first and what their priorities are. You get big bang for your buck with this measure. For a small $25 assessment per $100,000. You know, it'll raise a lot of money to benefit West Covina students. And I was informed by West Covina Unified School Board members that 70% of the West Covina Unified students actually attend Mount SAC. We're often thought of for low-income students, for students that are the first in their family to go to college. But even affluent students that don't qualify for financial aid come to Mount SAC because of the rising cost of college. So we really hope that you endorse and support and vote for Measure GO, the council and the community. Thank you.
Our final speaker this evening, Chris Miller.
Good evening, council, mayor, city manager, city staff. On item 6, I've been watching YouTube and a lot of the going on in the council chambers with no issue. I haven't seen any breakdown in the last 2 years. My question is, how old is the equipment, and is there really an issue? I would say that I've watched a couple of meetings, like the commissioner meetings and stuff, and when it's not in this room, it's hard to understand. It's hard to listen, especially if it's a big round table and you don't have mics set up. So maybe something can be done with that, but I don't really see an issue in the council chambers. On item 8, the purchase of Palmview Park, the house, for the demolition, I'd like to suggest that you donate the house, the material, to Habitat for Humanity, have a hold harmless drafted up for the city, and basically even look to residents. I know I would give my time and sweat to help demolish, pull the house apart for the timber, for the material, so then they can resell and use it for other projects in the area. On item 12, the historic resource inventory, the report was ranked by cost and by a point system. Typically in public works, it's either by lowest bid or best value. Neither was used in the selection of the contractor for the consultant. Either, get a price per point and make a determination there on value. So you basically, you rank all the submissions, I assume, to a scale, the highest being 77, the next highest being 75, and a price. So you divide the price by the points and see what your points are costing you. How much more do you spend to get those additional points? The second the highest score was actually one of the best values. Again, either do it by value or do it by lowest cost. On item 17, the purchase order for plumbing, if it's a not to exceed 21,000, if you only have, let's say, enough work for 5,000 bucks, after that time period is up for the fiscal year, is the money reverted back to the city? And then finally, I'm going to talk about the public hearing when that comes up, but finally on the Paul Walker tribute this weekend, it was kind of interesting to see all the going on the YouTube videos and the fact that there wasn't a West Covina, at least at the Home Depot on Azusa, a West Covina police presence there. I saw in the video a lot of CHP and a lot of LAPD, but no West Covina. So my question is, what happened to all the impounds? Who's getting the all the revenue from that? Is it the city, or is it going to CHP and LAPD since they've been following this thing? The crime was committed on our streets. Why aren't we taking charge? Thank you.
Okay, that's the last of the organization. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments?
I think I have a few, please. First and foremost, one of the speakers spoke about gardeners having to have some sort of license. They do. They're required to have a business license here in the city of West Covina. With regards to the purchase of the equipment for the council chambers, this has been a project that's been on the list for the last couple of years. Too bad Bruce Leinbach's not actually here. This is one of the projects he's been asking for some upgrades here of just cameras. Part of it will be moving forward with sound system, provide better quality of video. The idea of having interns or volunteers, it's difficult having dependable staff to make sure that they don't miss the meetings. However, saying that, as you've already received one of your weekly reports here, staff is already working to reach out to local schools as well as interns to provide other programming on the YouTube channel for West Covina as well as Channel 3, because we don't utilize that to its full potential. So there's opportunities to be doing that, and that's something we're going to be looking to do here in the upcoming months. There was discussion with regards to, I guess I'll turn over to the city attorney regarding the settlement matter once again, but again, I think we're very, very limited on what we're allowed to say, but I'll turn it over to her.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. When we are dealing with confidential personnel matters, we cannot discuss publicly or disclose to the public specific facts and circumstances which may have led to the need to conduct an investigation. Suffice it to say, as I commented last meeting, there were some allegations of misconduct. Those allegations will be investigated and appropriately addressed. And that is about all we can say.
I asked this last time, I'm still confused. I understand that part about that we can't talk about the actual, whatever, the personnel stuff to a certain extent, but I don't understand why, you did tell the amount of the settlement. What
yes,
I don't understand is why we don't read it out or we don't discuss what the vote was or anything like that on that kind of stuff.
That normally is not done when a settlement is approved prior to it actually being executed. We simply, in the circumstances when we can make settlement agreements public, we do make them public. I mean, it wasn't a unanimous vote, obviously, but I wasn't actually in the room, so I can't really say any more about it.
Well, no, I mean, is there a prohibition on us talking about that? I mean, when we know the amount? I mean, we can talk about the amount, I guess, because you did.
The
right?
council holds the closed session privilege. If the council wants to discuss
But that's not
publicly
something
what
that's
the vote.
public. That's not something that's automatically public. The vote on $500,000 isn't public.
Not in these circumstances, but there's nothing truly prohibiting you from discussing it if you wish to.
Okay.
It's up to the council, not to me.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
All right, I'll continue. All right, there was discussion about the property at Palmview Park. Unfortunately, the property is in pretty bad condition. There's also belief that there's lead paint and asbestos, so it wouldn't be a good thing to recycle the materials, probably couldn't anyway. Appreciate the idea and the thought process on that. With regard to purchase orders, the purchase orders is in essence an agreement with the vendor saying that we are going to potentially do work up to this dollar amount. If they don't actually get the money stays in the city's coffers. So we pay those bills up to that threshold, and if there's remaining balance on the purchase order, there's no money to have returned to the city, because the city never loses those funds. All right, and so each year it's normal practice to issue numerous purchase orders for a variety of different vendors that do work for the city. With regards to the car rally that was held last week, I can either have the chief come down and talk a little bit, but West Covina Police Department was involved. They did participate in the impounding. I can just share that I know from the chief that both CHP and LAPD, Street Racing Task Force were a part of it. So is that enough, or do you want to? He can give a little bit more an explanation since.
City Council members. So basically the event started at the plaza in West Covina, and as the event grew, we knew that the resources that we had available were limited in comparison to the size of the crowd. So our sergeants called in the LAPD, CHP, Street Crime Racing Task Force to assist. So as we dispersed vehicles from the mall, they started heading down towards the heights, down to the Home Depot area down there. So they were followed by our units. Again, that's about the time that the CHP LAPD task force was able to get out here, and it was a joint effort between agencies. And we had at least 8 units of our people down there. We did participate in the impounding, but one of the things that makes that work is you have to get as many impounds as you can get done as quickly as possible. For our people to try to do 50 impounds, holding people there, detaining them like that, it's just not going to work. So we did have the cooperation of that task force. It's a great resource. It's a great mutual aid effort. And they actually track these car clubs, so they have a lot of intelligence on them. They follow them on Instagram. They try to get, they change it up all the time about how they're going to get there, where they're going to go. But they really do a good job of providing info to us.
Chief, we spoke about this earlier. From what I understand, talking to Bill Salazar, the owner of Royal Coach, like one of the residents asked about the income, they were only able to, correct me if I'm wrong, tow 7 of those vehicles. There were so many multiple tow companies there because the CHP, all them pulled them all in, if I'm correct, right. And they wanted to get them out there as fast as possible.
That's correct. It's kind of a mutual aid of tow truck companies also. So,
And I just want to make it clear while you're here to the residents that Royal Coach, even though they towed 7 safely. From what I understand, a few of the other tow company they really double dip on them. They put one on the flatbed and they hook one up on the back, and they destroyed quite a few of them. So now they're going to be charged for it. So Royal Coach did a fantastic job. So I do want to thank our police department, which you're highly involved in, and Royal Coach because they did a great job too. Any other questions for the chief?
Well, you should point out that we're still looking for identification of.
Yeah, so we wanted to, some of the acts of criminal activity that occurred at the mall, the felony vandalism to the vehicle, the 2 batteries on the security officers. We wanted to get ahead of that. We issued a press release asking for the public's help. And, this is a continuing investigation. We do have an individual identified. We're working on that. So, you know, it was beneficial to get that help from the public. But we considered a priority. We brought our detectives in that evening and the next day. And, you know, this is something that we can't allow to happen in our city for sure. And quite honestly, what happened was minimal. There was a lot of chanting in that video of tip it over, you know, those type of things. And, you know, with a crowd that size, you know, a vehicle could easily be tipped over. So that would have been bad.
Do people go to the website to see the kind of information that you're looking for? Is that where the press release is?
Yes, it is on the website. It should be under press releases. There's a phone number. We are, again, getting a lot of calls from people, and it's really helping our detectives. That's how we were able to make the identification of one.
Thank you, Chief.
And then lastly, Mr. Mayor, I apologize on the council chamber upgrades. I failed to mention that all the improvements are something that's already been approved with the CIP budget, and no general funds are being used. It's all PEG funds that have been earmarked for this project.
Okay, thank you. That'd be the end of the consent calendar. And now we should, no, that's in the whole communication. Now we're going to go to the consent calendar. First of all, Madam City Clerk, please make a note that Councilman Spence will be voting no on 1 and 6. And we're going to have on the poll number 7, the city manager's already polled number 9. Mayor Pro Tem Wu wants to poll number 11, and Councilman Warshaw's on poll number 12. Is there any others besides that? Okay, maybe have number 7 first, please. City manager, please do a report on that.
We could do that, or if you wish to do a motion on the rest of the consent calendar.
Oh, yes. I knew I forgot something again. Okay, maybe we have a motion for the rest of the consent calendar?
I'll move the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Spence.
Aye. 1 and 6.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Wu.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye. It's 4, it's 5 with Councilman Spence voting no on 1 and 6. Okay, now maybe we have number 7. City manager, will you please give us a report on number 7, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. For the last several years, the City of West Covina has talked about doing some reorganization of our Development Services Department, or Development Services divisions here within the City of West Covina, specifically our building, engineering, planning, and economic development divisions of our city. There's always been this concept or discussion that we've seen in other cities to be more business friendly, that they have one counter or one area for developers to come in and seek all the information they need for new development. And that is what's being proposed tonight. And that is the creation of a community development department. Underneath that, you will have one director. And then from below that, you'll have 4 different divisions that are responsible for those different areas. Economic development is currently housed in the city manager's office. That'd be under this new department. Building and engineering will move from public works into this new department. And the planning department would then no longer cease to exist, and all those operations would move into community development as well. Not only is the benefit of having better customer service, more efficiencies, but there's times where I know the council's asked what's the status of a project or report, and it's not uncommon that you'll have that project in being dealt with in multiple departments at this time. You would have, it's very common to have something that economic development is trying to help get through the process that's in with the planning department, the building, and engineering. So now having it all under one roof is going to provide much more efficient and turnaround on our projects, and allow for put all the pressure on Jeff Anderson, the new director, to make sure that we're getting these projects in and out of the queue as quickly as possible. No pressure, Jeff. But this, again, is something that we have heard time and time again from developers about trying to be able to be a little bit more efficient in our services. And I think the council has asked for that as well. And I know that some of the folks here that we've received letters or emails on have asked, hey, what's the status of my projects? And hopefully this will provide that better access for them as well. What this also means is that there's a portion of public works, which is the city yard, that needs to be relocated in another department. And we're proposing a new department, which is a combination of community services, which is parks and recreation, and the city yard. Why that's important is that the majority of the users of our park facilities are our sports groups and the people using our parks. And so community services staff is out there on a daily basis. They'll be able to watch and maintain and be responsible for the ongoing maintenance of those facilities and not having to depend on that of another department. So having that all under one roof is going to provide better service for the community as well. Now we can talk a little bit about the dollars. Part of this is now restructuring. We're actually going to eliminate a department head position. So we will no longer have a public works director or city engineer as an actual salary position. We're proposing that we would have a part-time or contract city attorney, or I did it again. City engineer, not city attorney. We already have a contract city attorney, but a contract city engineer that would come in here maybe once a week rather than having somebody here 5 days a week, which is not necessary at this time. Most of that person's time will be charged to actual projects that we're having done here in the community. Staff is estimating that we could save well over $200,000 or more of general fund and special funds here in the city, which can be reallocated for other activities and programs. This does mean that there's a variety of actions that need to be done in order to facilitate this restructure. They're outlined in the staff report, and both divisions are actually both the two new departments. I can go through each of those steps if you wish. Some of it is the elimination of some of the positions, renaming of the departments, reclassification of certain employees, because certain employees are being promoted as part of this to take up the responsibilities of the director. And we're also losing a couple other positions, including we've recently received word, and it's not a secret, we enjoy having Micah Martin here, but he's been accepted to take a position with the city of Newport Beach. So we're losing Micah here in a few weeks. And so his position will be dissolving as another cost-saving measure, and other staff will be taking on those responsibilities. The importance of this is that we are still in tough economic challenges here in West Covina. We know that next year we're still going to have a structural budget deficit because of our increased pension costs. By taking this action now, we're starting to get ourselves prepared for that to help try to make reductions now that can help save us from making cuts in the future. The other part of this is you'll see not just this action, but other actions coming over the next several months to try and prepare us better for that action. A good example is another item on your agenda is the refinancing of the city debt that we're going to talk about shortly. Between these two actions, we could be saving the city $300,000 to $400,000 a year by making these changes. With that, I'm asking for the City Council to approve the various city department reorganizations as outlined in the staff report.
Any other comment? Question. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay. I think anything to shrinking the waste of a government become more lean and mean, I think it's a good thing. Okay. But I just have a question regarding on this conversion. Basically, you make the planning department and the building department together. Am I right? So become a one-stop shopping. So people you could go to the counter they can just ask about their status. So rather than you go to two departments, that's why you try to the conversion. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay, and in that way, because so many people, they want to remodel their home, they want to build their house, or they want to do something, and all the complaint I receive all the time is the delay, take about another 4 weeks, take another 5 weeks, take a month, and this and that, and plus our city only work 3 or 4 days a week, so it's more delayed. So in that way, you can guarantee we can make everything much faster?
I'm not going to make any guarantee of that.
You say yes. Okay.
I will say we're more efficient, yes.
Yeah, more efficient.
Because each project comes in differently. I can't guarantee that every project will be done quicker.
Because you want to do this conversion, the point is you want to improve the service besides just saving. You want to improve the service of our residents or people coming in, want to spend the money to our city. You want to improve, make sure we can, right away provide the service and collect the fee and the money.
Sure, the other benefit of this is by having one department and having one counter, now you're able to start cross-training staff who that maybe had an expertise in just building. Now they can get an expertise perhaps in planning so that they can answer those same questions of customers as well.
Got it. So basically, you want to make a benefit to our residents is that this department will be more efficient and lean and mean, so to provide better service to make, just like you just say, okay, make everything much faster, okay, more efficient for our service to let people to try to go into our planning or building department in one-stop shopping. And another thing, a question regarding another department, you're talking about the community service department, that public work will belong to them. So meaning what? Or the tree trimming, okay, all the bushes need to be fire hazard, rehab the street, that would belong to Nicole right now?
That would be correct.
So anything we just say, hey, Nicole, go to repair the street.
Right.
This is her job.
Not repaving the streets, that's still part of engineering.
No, we go to him still. Though.
Okay.
Yeah, council members are still coming to me to ask those questions,
of
but
course,
yes.
it's okay, but meaning what, she is the person, no longer like before the Chino or Micah to do the complaint from the resident, send me the email, forward to you and CC to our health department. Now, in the future, it will be you and CC to Nicole. Am I right?
That is absolutely correct. And what we also believe is that in the past, we've had public works directors and / city engineers, and their main focus has been the engineering portion and the building portion, and not as much attention to the maintenance of the organization or of our city. And so Nicole and I have a certain standard that's much higher than the current standard of how our community looks, and so that's going to be a priority, is working on the maintenance districts, working on some of the areas that we've talked about on getting sidewalks improved, and having staff that are now able to, who are out there on a daily basis, seeing all those actions, trying to help clean that up.
Yeah, because if you know, we have a lot of hillside, we have a lot of park, okay, and we have a 16 park and plot hillside and common area owned by the city. A lot of tree, a lot of places is overgrown, and that should be hopefully in no time try to clean it up. And since okay, District 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 something, and they all have a pay extra, so we should have a proper channel to hopefully perform. Okay, and then another question I have. You're talking about $200-300 saving. Okay, so you have a saving. Okay, if you eliminate so many of staff position, like we make it more efficient, not just try to save money, try to make it more efficient, service our residents to make a nice, much beautiful city. Okay, and then what kind of adjustment? For example, do we have people will get raised or anything adjustment because they have more job? So maybe you can share with us more detail.
Sure. Part of the restructuring is the creation of a couple of positions in the organizations as well. So not only will we have a new director of, instead of planning or public works, it'll be a joint position of a director of community development. That's one position that will be reclassified and changed. Right now, Ms. Bresciani is the assistant city manager / community services director. She'll be the assistant city manager, public services director. We'll be creating a public services superintendent position. That position will be pretty much almost an assistant director level for Nicole and her department. They'll oversee some of the operations, both community services and in the maintenance of the city yard. With the elimination of the maintenance superintendent, which is Mr. Martin's position, Micah's position, we're going to create a new public works supervisor position, where we're promoting someone who has been overseeing some of the aspects of the city yard to a little bit higher position, where they'll oversee a majority of the day-to-day operations of the Public Works Department, including graffiti, streets, sewer, building maintenance, contract maintenance, and fleet. So that person is going to get
thank you.
Okay. Change as well.
My question is very simple. How many staff or health department will have this conversion, okay, do the adjustment, and how many will be eliminated, so I can do a comparison?
Sure. I believe there was an addition, or not addition, excuse me. We have 4 positions that are being reclassified. We are actually, as part of the savings, we're actually putting back a new position, and that is a planning assistant position. That was one of the items that was cut in this year's budget. With Mr. Anderson spending more time supervising all the different divisions, he's not going to have as much time to do planning work in the department. So this entry-level planning position will be able to help provide additional assistance and keep projects on track. So we're adding that one position, but they're also eliminating, I believe, 3 positions that were eliminated, because what's happening is part of these reclassifications, we will be eliminating positions as these people promote up.
Thank you so much. Okay, the concern I have is I think I like this conversion. I think it's good. The only worry I have, just I talked to you in one-on-one, okay, our conversation, as I told you I will ask about this question. I just don't want to eliminate, okay, some of the staff, okay, and then our head of department, they just have an increase. Okay, so this is my concern. Okay, if it's not, it's like this case, then I will support this. I think this is a good way to make it lean and mean and efficient to make our city, hopefully, based on this, we have to see through it's going to run smoothly or not. But my point is, okay, I just don't want to say we eliminate some of the staff, then we somehow have the head of department, then they increase 8% or 10% of their pay. That is my concern, just because they have additional title, okay, but we just have to pay them more. Okay, and in current our situation, our financial stress, I hope everybody can bear this time. Hopefully in no time, 2 years later, we have money coming in, then we can do adjustment. But now, I think everybody have to tie the belt, and hopefully we can go through this tough time, just 1 or 2 years.
Right, so we will need to have to do some adjustments because people will be working out of classifications. And so there will be certain people that will be changing bargaining units, for example, as part of this responsibility, because now they're managing more staff. So there will be some adjustments, but we've accounted for that as part of the savings, plus we've added positions. Now, we have eliminated a couple of positions, but the intent is, just like we are doing with other departments, is this is the first step to continue to reevaluate the way we do business. We do need to still find ways to make reductions as part of this year before next year's budget, because we do know that we're going to have to do additional adjustments as part of this year's budget, whether that be through negotiations with the different labor groups or with additional reorganization of the departments. So
you say 4% will be, okay, classified, okay, different of the title increase, correct, and then they should have increased, what you say, adjustment of their pay.
It's going to be small adjustments and still within the budget. And
do you have the percentage already or not yet?
Not yet. Those will be different actions coming forward.
So we have to approve this first, and then you will discuss about the adjustment pay, or do we approve this and including the adjustment of pay?
No, not adjustments of pay at this time.
Just go basically. Got it. Okay. So in that way, thank you so much.
Councilman Toma.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've talked about this before, and I like the thing that I like best about it. I mean, it's born out of necessity to some degree for efficiencies, but I do like the one counter model, because it makes more sense from the public's point of view. You know, the other individual silo departments makes more sense from a specialization sort of government staff point of view, but most, you know, there are repeat players, so some people have gotten familiar with what each department does, but there are some people who go in for a remodel project infrequently, and so don't necessarily know what to do if you have to wait for customer service at one spot and then wait and then go to another spot, wait for customer service another spot. That's delay. And so I do like this idea that it's more customer service friendly towards the public. I also like the idea of what you're talking about, like cross-training, because it is going to be a challenge, I'm sure, for staff, but it's going to be good for them skill-wise and to work with each other. And I think by knowing better what the other sections do, they're going to better serve the public also, because questions obviously pop up from the public all the time. They don't know that this person's a planning person, doesn't necessarily know, you know, building questions, but because of the knowledge and information that's going to be shared through this combination, they're going to get better information and better service from the city. So I do think it's a good idea. It's creative. I know we're not the only ones that do it, but other cities do the same model, because I think it makes a lot of sense.
Is there any other questions, Councilman? Okay, if not, I'd like to make a motion to accept item number 7.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Spence?
Aye.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
All right, item passes 5-0. Now we go to item number 9. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. We've asked this item be pulled for separate consideration, which is the authorization to issue lease revenue refunding bonds, Series 2018. I'm going to give a brief introduction, and then I'm going to ask the rest of our bond team to come forward to the podium. Why this is important is that for the last couple of years, staff has been looking to refinance our city's variable rate debt. As you remember, the City Council tasked us with looking at that, as well as when we did the refinancing of our former redevelopment debt that we'd finished a little over a year ago. The challenge we've had is because of issues we had at the Department of Finance a couple of years ago, as well as the financial situation of the city, we have not been able to refinance our debt. With the recent adoption of our budget, Wells Fargo Bank has been watching and looking at the changes we've been making to our structure and our finances, and has agreed to move forward with underwriting of the bond issuance. This is significant to the city for a variety of reasons. One is it will provide immediate general fund savings each year moving forward of anywhere between $90,000 and $225,000 per year. I will say that also is a reduction of annual cost and administration time because, as you remember, we've had to bring back letters of credit to you every year on many of the different bond issuance. Those go away. In addition, one of our bonds is held by Bank of the West Bank, and as part of that bond issuance, we have $500,000 that's to be set aside in an account that can't be used for any other services. And so that will go away, so that money will revert back into our general fund reserves. And the most important happens to be is this issue about the variable rate debt. Every time interest rates go up, our debt rate goes up, so it's not at a fixed amount. And so today, let's say we're paying 2.5% interest on some of our debt. But it's very likely that interest rates will continue to increase. And by doing so, that means our annual debt payments on this debt will continue to increase as well. At this time, I'll ask Suzanne Harrell to come forward. I probably took all of her comments, but we'll see. And she'll introduce the rest of the debt team that's here. As far as the time schedule, we're hoping to close by Halloween?
End of October.
End of October. Trick or treat. So Suzanne Harrell is your municipal advisor who's helping us with this bond issuance.
Well, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. As the City Manager said, I'd like to introduce the other members of the city's financing team. We have Julia Kim from Wells Fargo Bank, and we have Don Hunt from Norton Rose Fulbright, the city's bond counsel. I'll try not to repeat too much of what Chris said, but I do want to make a few points, and that is in addition to the challenges that you've experienced with refinancing the debt over the last few years. I mean, you really have enjoyed pretty low interest rates ever since the Great Recession. The short-term interest rates have been, fairly low, and you've really benefited from that. However, in the last 2 years, a couple of things have happened. One is that the short-term rates, which are the variable rates that your bonds are subject to, have raised much more quickly than the interest rates for longer-term maturities. So if you look at the yield curve between, a one-year Treasury bond and a 30-year Treasury bond, it's getting flatter and flatter over time. And this kind of creates a market situation where you can actually refinance short-term variable rate debt using long-term interest rates and still save money. And so that's not always the case. And so, a couple of things have aligned here. Your budget challenges, you've really done a good job in getting your budget balanced and putting yourself in a position to actually take advantage of these market conditions that are pretty unusual. And the other thing, as the city manager mentioned, in the last couple of years, the debt administration costs for the renewals of these letter of credits have been a significant drain on your staff time and resources. And so by converting this to fixed rate debt, you'll get rid of all of those administrative headaches as well as some of the renewal costs. And further, the final point that I wanted to make is by doing this, you're going to mitigate a lot of you're going to mitigate interest rate risk, you're going to mitigate the risk that you won't be able to find a letter of credit bank who wants to take the bonds and renew the letters of credit. So I think this is a really great opportunity for you. And as you look at challenges for increasing PERS costs and finding ways to pay for that, this again hopefully will save you a couple $100,000 in a couple of years from now compared to what you would pay if you left the variable rate bonds in place. So with that, if anybody has any questions.
Okay, and so basically you want us to, with our bond, okay, we finance with Wells Fargo, right?
I'm sorry?
You want us to refinance with the Wells Fargo, so regarding our current bond, right?
Yes.
Am I right?
We have multiple bonds to refinance.
How many bonds we have? How much totally?
So the bonds that are being refinanced here are about $25 million.
And how many bonds? 4, 5, 3?
There's 3 bond issues.
3 bonds?
$25 million.
Okay.
The city has some other bond issues that are not.
Okay, and currently you say we are adjustable rate, right?
Yes.
What kind of interest rate we have right now? What are we based on? Are we based on Prime Plus 1 or LIBOR or
Well, you actually
T-bill?
have some that are based on like 85% of LIBOR plus a spread of, 95 basis
LIBOR
points.
is still pretty low right now. We have, our 1-year T-bill is 3.05. okay, it's like, okay, our 1 year, okay, bonds, okay, T-bill is higher recently due to central bank raised the short-term interest rate.
Right.
But my point is, okay, you want to refinance for us with a fixed rate. So what kind of fixed rate you want to, okay, and offer to us?
Right, so the fixed rate is approximately an average effective rate of about 3.8%. The variable rate bonds, so we're projecting, you're starting out right now at about, the ones that are subject to LIBOR have gone up about 1%. The interest rate's gone up about 1%.
LIBOR right now is what? 1.45?
LIBOR right now is about 140?
140, yeah, something around there.
Suzanne, can you explain that for the rest of the community, what LIBOR is?
Oh, sure. LIBOR is an index. It's the London Interbank Offering Rate. And it's an index that the financial markets use to peg how they're going to set rates for various issues based on their credit rating.
Yeah, I'm in the business, I know. Yeah.
So anyway, so it's not just the LIBOR. So the way we calculate the interest rate on these bonds is LIBOR plus a spread, and that's at about, that's a little bit over.
LIBOR plus one?
No, it's 70% of, or it's 85% of LIBOR plus 95 basis points.
So 0.95.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
So-
offer 3.85 fixed rate. What term is? Is a 30 years term, 20 years term?
You know, the
5 years
weighted
term?
average is about 20 years.
Commercial rate, 20 years,
Yeah,
3.85 fixed.
It's 26 years in total, but the average life is about 20 years.
So around 20 years terms, okay, and the fixed rate for 3.85.
3.8, right.
3.8.
Now, the variable rates.
Can you go lower than that?
I'm sorry, no. I do my best to make sure that Wells Fargo will give you the best rate that's available in the market at the time. That's part of my service to the city, is to make sure that when we actually do go to lock in the interest rates, that they're giving you the best rates that are
So
available.
currently, we haven't locked in the interest rate yet.
That's right. So the process is the two resolutions that you're considering tonight, one by the city, one by the financing authority. Once those are approved, then we can go and get your credit rating affirmed by S&P, and then we go out into the market, and then we set the interest rates, you know, in about, I would say it's about 3 weeks from now we'll actually set the interest rates.
3 weeks. So let me conclude this. Okay, so basically you offer us, okay, $25 million, okay, 3.8% interest rate, and a 20 years fixed.
That's right.
So within 20 years, we don't have to worry about interest up and down.
That's right.
So even interest go to 5%, 6%, we still stay 3.8% fixed.
Exactly.
For 25 years, okay, 3.5 interest rate and 20 years.
Well, it's actually 26 years,
26
but most
years.
of the bonds mature in 20 years.
And you're using amortization, okay, 26 years, okay, and the 3.8%, so you're paying the principal and interest.
That's right.
So it's not interest only.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there any, Councilman Thorne?
Just on this, I think it's important that we do this. You know, even months ago, it was clear that interest rates had nowhere to go but up. The Federal Reserve constantly signals these things. Interest rates have been historic lows for quite a while now, and they often signal by just telling the market like what they plan to do. I think they even say like there's another couple, you know, increases in this year. So and there were a couple increases earlier this year, but this is the first time we've actually been able to pull the trigger and get this done. So I do think it's obviously important. It's going to save the city a lot of money, and for the reasons that you said about each time the having to get the letter, it's a big administrative task and creates a lot of uncertainty. So I think this is an important measure to take for our city's financial health. Thank you.
Councilman Spence.
Yeah, I had just a real couple quick questions. Now, these kinds of bonds, they're different than like how the Mousesack bond came up and talked about, because that's a tax that goes on property, that's paid for by property, and the interest on the $750 million, which will be about $700 million, we from that too. So these are lease revenue bonds, and so I'm just trying to figure out, is the total net then that we're going to have as far as the projected savings? I mean, how were we able to tell what the savings were going to be, and because the term's going longer than they originally are now, is that right? we're not shortening the term.
You're not shortening the term.
Yeah, so the overall cost, is that going to be more than we were paying? I mean, I just want to make sure, I'm trying to figure out how we can get out of this debt, because it's coming out of, it's not coming out of property taxes, it's coming out of the city's budget. And so, like, for example, the golf course ones where we have the resolution dealing with the BKK lands, that whenever those get sold, that goes towards paying these off.
Well, this
how's
is actually, that is refinancing this debt as well.
Yeah, so how's it, yeah, I know that the golf course ones are, right?
Yeah.
So how's it going to work then if we do sell that property or whatever, and that money's supposed to go to paying off the debt? Are we able to pay that off early, or how are we able to do that?
No, we're not. And the reason why is, but all the money will be put into the debt service account per the requirements of the city council. The challenge we have is we don't know exactly when that property is going to sell.
Right, of course.
And so the issue is that if you put in a refunding or a shorter period of time on any of the bonds, the cost goes up significantly on the bonds. And so we're not recommending to do that at all because of that additional cost. We actually would not save money is what it would look like.
So we don't have the ability to pay off our debts early? Is that what you're saying? I mean,
Well, there will be a prepayment option at the end of 10 years, but in order to get a prepayment option earlier than that, which is not really standard for the bond market, the investors are going to actually ask for a higher rate of interest because of the uncertainty about when they could be called out. And so we thought that as we looked at that option, it was so much more expensive than just taking the proceeds from the sale of the golf course and just using it to pay down the debt over time as it came due. That portion of the debt that's allocated to the golf course sale matures within 10 years in any event. So
okay.
It made much more financial sense to just be able to take that money and pay down the debt over time than pay extra for a prepayment option you might
that
never
may or may
use.
not happen, actually.
If you look at the
We
attachment,
did consider that, though.
yeah, if you look at attachment number 9, talks about the breakdown, the bond and debt service breakdown. You'll see like the first 20 years, we're talking about $1.7, $1.8 million of annual bond debt, which is what we're doing now. So we're going to maintain our costs there as far as that. We're really saving a significant amount of money is on the letters of credit and the legal fees every year. When you get to year 20, so 2038 thereafter, the bond payment goes down to $127,000 for those last 6 years. So it's pretty insignificant once you get to that level on the repayment schedule.
Can you also address this issue of that some of this may be taxable versus tax exempt? I didn't quite understand all that in here.
Sure, I may have to ask the bond counsel to come up and assist me in the tax law analysis, but I'll do my best. Because the golf course property is anticipated to be sold to a third party, that doesn't really qualify for tax-exempt financing going forward. When you originally issued the bonds, the idea was to build a municipal golf course owned and operated by the city, and that would have been a tax-exempt purpose. So there's no problem with the existing bonds, but if we're to refinance them knowing that you intend to sell that property, that's what created the need for issuing that particular piece on a taxable basis.
So it is going to be issued, or only if we sell it, or how does that work, I guess?
No, it will be the bonds that are allocated to the grading of that golf course site, those will be refinanced on a taxable basis. And they'll be done over the shortest period of time, about 10 years.
And how does that affect?
And that's about $4 million of the 25.
Yeah, and how does that affect the cities? How does that affect the city? How does it affect this bond issuance?
Well, the taxable rates are a little bit higher than the tax exempt rates, so we want to make sure we minimize that to the extent possible to keep the cost down.
So, no, but does that mean our interest rate's a little bit higher, or what does that mean?
The interest rate on that $4 million is a little bit higher than it is on the other $21 million. Okay. It's already factored into that overall 3.8%.
It is, okay, it is already factored into that.
We talked about.
So it's not something that kicks in then at a certain point, that's already factored in?
It's already factored into the 3.8% average interest rate.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilman Marshall.
Thank you. I would have to agree with Councilman Thoma that we need to do this. I think we would have liked to have done it sooner, but the way that our finances were before. It was very difficult. I want to thank staff for the work they've done in getting this put together. We all know interest rates are going up. They'll probably go up 1 or 2 times more this year and probably at least 3 times next year. So by doing this now, we are actually saving money. And that's something that we need to be doing, especially over the next 5 years. So I too believe that this is the right thing to do at this point in time.
Okay, closing costs. How much will it cost us?
There's about $250,000 in fixed cost of issuance, and then...
And is that including can you go into our bond, or we have to pay extra for our general fund?
All the costs will be rolled into the bond issuance.
Right, they'll be paid out of the proceeds of the bonds. And then there's other costs. There's bond insurance and the underwriting discount. So the overall all-in costs are about $680,000. Also, all paid out of the net proceeds. So this general fund doesn't have to pay them out of pocket up front.
I'm kind of confused. You say that for $250,000 closing costs, and then totally to get a $600,000 can roll into our loan amount.
Right. So there's $250,000 of fixed consulting fees.
Like the point, the closing cost, the fee we have to pay to the consultant.
Right. All of that. Then the underwriting fee plus the bond insurance fee. All of those together are about $680,000.
So another $350,000 where does it go to? Okay.
So about $95,000 is for underwriting, and the other is for bond insurance and a surety bond.
$95,000 for underwriting? That's pretty pricey.
Actually, it's pretty
standard
low. It's like below $4 a bond, which is when I think I gave you an analysis for your last council meeting when you approved the using the consulting contracts, and I did like a comparison of all kinds of different bonds and the underwriting spreads, and the Wells Fargo spread is pretty. It's at the low end of the.
Got it. So basically, okay, we have a $25 million of bond plus $600,000 closing costs, and that would be this totally debt, and the 3.8%, 26-year fixed.
Yeah, the $25 million actually included the 680. I was kind of rounding up, so.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and this is something I know. The state of California finally did it, but I know when I was on the school board and we did, or the voters approved bonds, now I did them, but the voters approved bonds. I always wondered if it was possible that we could make this available for, and in this case, citizens of West Covina, that they wanted to buy these bonds, because usually they're just sold to institutional investors, you know, or something like that. I mean, is there a way to do that where we can allow, you know, if somebody from the city of West Covina wanted to invest in their city and, you know, to go ahead and do that?
We typically will request that the underwriter make available like a phone number for residents to call and find out how to buy the bonds, you know, what the minimum investment is, because each bond is a minimum of $5,000. So that might be a little too much for some residents. And then they'll find out how to actually buy it. There's forms they have to fill out in advance. So usually we try to put something up on your website with an 800 number for them to call in and find out. And then if they're really interested, once they get that basic information, the underwriter can point them in the right direction.
Okay, well, can we make sure that's the city gets that information out to folks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. That's all I have. And I agree with, you know, Mr. Warshaw. I'm not going to say I agree with Toma, but I agree with Mr. Warshaw and Mr. Toma. You know, obviously, you know, we do have to do this, and it does save us money over time. It's something that we do need to do in order to properly manage our money. It'd be malpractice, you know, if we didn't do it as a council to approve this. So, anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, you have a couple of resolutions for adoption this evening. I certainly may. The recommendation is that it's recommended the City Council and the West Covina Public Finance Authority authorize the undertaking of the refunding of various variable rate bonds, and authorize the appropriate staff to take various actions necessary to complete the refunding by adopting the following resolutions. The following resolution, the first resolution is resolution number 2018-117, a resolution of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, approving the issuance of Lease Revenue Refunding Bond Series 2018A and Lease Revenue Refunding Bond Series 2018B taxable to be issued by the West Covina Public Financing Authority, authorizing and approving a site and facility lease, a lease agreement, a preliminary official statement, a continued disclosure certificate, and a bond purchase agreement, and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith. In addition, resolution number 29, a resolution of the West Covina Public Financing Authority approving the refunding of its variable rate lease revenue refunding bonds, 2002 Series B Public Facilities Project, variable rate lease revenue bonds, 2004 Series A, the Golf Course Project, variable rate lease revenue bonds, 2004 Series B Golf Course Project, and variable rate lease revenue refunding bonds, Series 2013A, which are the Community Center project, and the issuance of the lease revenue refunding bonds, Series 2018A, and lease revenue refunding bonds, Series 2018B, taxable to be issued by the authority, approving a site and a facility lease, a lease agreement, an assignment agreement and indenture, a preliminary official statement and bond purchase agreement, and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith. Whew.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept resolution number 2018-117 and resolution number 29. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Have a roll call, please.
Spence?
Aye.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye, passes 5-0. Okay, now we should go to item number 11. And that's by Mayor Pro Tem Abu.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, maybe I need a little bit more, clarified for this agenda, so maybe City Manager can explain to us regarding this, benefit salary schedule for the non-representative department head. And I want to know how many department head, have this, adjustment.
So there is no adjustment, but let me start with saying that for all the city department heads, including police chief, fire chief, assistant city manager, city clerk, we don't have a public works director anymore, community development director, and what am I missing? Sorry, who's up there that I missed? Oh, Edward, HR director, city clerk. So we have in finance. So yes, we've reduced the number of directors we have here, so a total of 8 positions.
So we have about 8%?
Right, and so what has happened is that the department heads are what's called non-representative, so they don't have a memorandum of understanding or an agreement between the city and the employees for their services. But they do have a summary of salary and benefits, which was attached previously. Their agreement has expired on June 30th, 2017. And they haven't seen any kind of adjustment or changes in salaries and benefits since that time. With the city's current financial situation and the issues facing the city, a couple weeks ago there was a presentation of a new resolution. City staff pulled that off because the directors felt that in these tough economic times, they did not want to see any kind of adjustments to their salary and benefits because we have been taking away that from other employees. And so the department heads are foregoing any increases at this time for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Yeah, but I read it, the detail they say about the Veteran Day,
Yes, that's just in concert with the Veterans Day that has been a holiday selected for other departments here or other MOUs. So at this time, the council has already approved that holiday for other employees, and so that the city hall will be closed that day.
So I think before we don't close the Veteran Day, right? Right.
This will be the first year we're closed.
So the first year we were closed.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's observed on a Monday though. Yeah. So it's not on that Sunday, but that Monday it will be observed holiday.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about number 11? I'd like to make a motion. But
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve.
then we have a motion. I'll second. We have a roll call, please.
Spence? Aye. Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye. Item passes 5-0. Now we should go move to number 12, which is Councilman Warshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason why I asked for this to be pulled is because this isn't necessarily the lowest bid, but I think it was the third lowest bid out of 5. And the point structure that was given brought the second lowest and the third lowest close to each other. And I think I understand why staff recommended the third, but I would like to have staff give a report as to why they made the recommendation, and then I might have some other questions.
Yes, thank you. We did review 5, and when we looked at them, we wanted to make sure that we were hiring someone that could do the work that we wanted the result of. So we weren't just looking for the most inexpensive. And when we reviewed, we found that most of them did not have the type of experience in doing projects that we're requesting. In other words, a survey, a historic survey of an entire city. Most of them had done some type of psychoanalysis of historic structures by themselves. And so the one we selected, GPA, has done 7 cities, West Hollywood, La Habra, Ventura, Calabasas, Yorba Linda, Huntington Beach, and Whittier. And in addition to that was part of a City of LA program that reviewed several communities in LA, including West Adams, Bel Air, Beverly Crest, and Silver Lake Echo Park. About 880,000 parcels that they reviewed as part of that program in LA. So they had by far the most experience. The second most experience, I think, had done 3, and some of them hadn't done any. So that was the basis of the score. It wasn't just based on cost. It was based on expertise as well.
Thank you. And I also noticed, well, the lowest bid from what I looked at, they have never done an entire city. They've done small little project areas, and it was more just looking at that one piece of project and hadn't put together anything for an entire city. Also, in looking at the cost, I saw that the company that you recommended did a project in West Hollywood that was only looking at their commercial, not commercial and residential the last time. And they charged West Hollywood, it was between $118,000 and $119,000 for that study, with another 10% on top of it if there were any changes to it. So you're looking at a total of about $130,000. So I didn't think the price was out. And in looking at that particular project, which was actually on the West Hollywood site, it looks exactly the type of thing that we want to do, except not just on the commercial side, but also on the residential side. So I didn't think the price was out, especially because I first thought, gee, maybe we're paying too much because this is just an update from the one that was done back in 2008. But in 2008, we only looked at structures done before 1945. Well, in 1945, there wasn't even 5,000 residents in West Covina. Now we have over 30,000 residents plus all of our commercial, and so this new study is going to look at everything besides those, everything after, if I'm correct. Is that correct?
This new study will look at everything that's more than 50 years old, so basically from 68 previous. And it may look at some of the properties we looked at originally in the original study, but most it's going to focus on things that were constructed between 45 and 68.
Right, and I think our growth in the city in the 1960s went from 5,000 to over, what was it, 55,000, I think it was, just in residential. So we're going to be looking at a lot more property. So I didn't think the cost was out of the realm. And again, in looking at the 2 lower bids, they definitely don't have the experience in doing anything like that. So with that, you've answered my questions, and I agree with staff, so I'll make a motion to approve recommendations by staff.
Question by Mayor Pro Tem, go first.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Just curiosity. Do we have to do this? Do we have to do this historical resource? This is a request by state, or why? Why we have to do this? Spend $100,000.
So,
and after we find out all this by this consulting company and get this road resource, okay, and then you identify all the buildings. So what happened to those buildings? So they cannot rebuild, they cannot do renovation. So I want to understand why we're doing this. Or what, is there a requirement, and what the benefit to the city to do this?
Sure, that's a good question. We did this in 2006, I think, was when the previous one was done. And that time we were trying to understand, well, there were some issues. There were some older buildings that were proposed to be demolished to subdivide properties, and the community was concerned about that. That could happen again with properties that are that the city might think is historic, that were constructed between 45 and 68. So that's a possibility, and that did happen. That was a situation that did occur. So that's one reason that the city would want to do it. Since that time, we've had 2 projects, and both of them approved in the last 5 years or so, where the LA Conservancy came after us and said they thought that those were significant buildings. And they set themselves up in both situations to file a lawsuit. They didn't follow through with that, but they set it up to do that because we didn't have an analysis of whether anything that was built before 45 and 68 was historic or not, and that's what CEQA requires you to analyze. So what it does for us is it will help developers to move forward with projects quicker because they know they can predict what the result is. We can tell them it's a historic building or it's not a historic building. Now, the other thing is that you ask is, what will be the result of this? The result of this is up to the council eventually. This isn't going to tell you you can't do this or you can't do that. It's going to tell you which properties are historic and how they rank historically. And then it's up to the council to decide what that means to them and for the city.
Okay, the question I have is this, okay, historical building means very old, okay, house, okay, or building. I live in 1945 home, from 1989, okay, and those homes, okay, 235 live, okay, and no air conditions, no insulation, single panel, okay, and so those homes need to be renovate, okay, to put more efficient of energy. So if you say this 1945 or 1950 home, that's almost like 70 years ago. So meaning what? They cannot rebuild. They cannot do what's the consequence if we identify those old home, okay, and because we have a lot of old home in West Covina, and myself I live for almost 14 years in that. Okay, house, okay, and I did a remodeling, okay, put the insulation, and try to, and still have no air conditioning at that time because the old home you cannot even input. Okay, so anyway, maybe you can answer me about this concern.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I think I can address this quickly. I've just done this in Whittier, actually, with the same consultant. The significance of the designation of something as being eligible for historic designation simply distinguishes it from those which are not, as Mr. Anderson pointed out, and gives certainty to developers about whether they have to do further CEQA analysis or not. If a property is deemed to be eligible for designation, it typically means that it is a high quality example of a particular kind of architecture. It was designed by a specific architecture or in a specific architectural style, somebody famous usually, particularly somebody famous in California or in the area. It may be designated historical because of who lived there or things that happened there. But in terms of what you're talking about, renovations inside, typically those are not regulated in any way by CEQA, and because of historic, what they're really looking at is preserving the exterior appearance, the architectural integrity of these buildings when they're looking at historical resources. So a designation as eligible doesn't necessarily mean it is a landmark. You may decide that you want to landmark it. That's usually up to the owners of the buildings to request that. to petition for landmark designation, and they get certain property tax benefits from that under certain circumstances. But even properties that are historic, I am purchasing one at this moment in a historic preservation zone, and you can do things in the back, you can add to the back, you can do things structurally behind the main property. There's lots of things that you can actually do even with a designation.
Thank you. Okay, the reason I raised this issue is because one of the homeowners in West Covina, okay, tried to remodel their home, okay, and hit the obstacle due to, they say, this house, built in 1925, have an issue. Okay, I think you remember, okay, the person they apply, okay, and they'll have to went through health to try to see if this belongs to a historical building or not. So what I'm saying is the property right compared with what we're talking about, identify if this is historical building, they cannot do too much of alteration of the outside. And another home, okay, again, what I'm saying is, okay, maybe, okay, what is the definition of a historical home? What is the value that we have to keep this? And it is so vague, okay? And I was so worried about, okay, these companies, we spend $100,000, they identify so many property, and it reduce a property owner their right to modernize the home. I'm talking about modernize, meaning energy saving and make it a little bit more efficient of the newer property rather than 100 years ago, okay, those buildings. It's really not sufficient for current standard.
Right. Again, it doesn't prevent modifications that are either consistent historically or look consistent historically. You can do energy efficient projects and so on. But the main concern, I think, from staff's perspective is that CEQA requires analysis of anything older than 50 years old to determine is it historical or not. And so if we don't do it on a citywide basis, every individual property owner, when they want to have any discretionary approval of changes to their property, is going to have to come and do a CEQA analysis, pay for a CEQA analysis separately. Doing it in one study gives you the whole picture of the whole city and really saves a lot of effort for individual property owners when they do want to make changes to the property.
So correct if I'm wrong. You're saying this, okay, basically if we don't do this consultant to have this city-wide, okay, and research about identify which property is historical building, then anybody in West Covina, if they have an old house, if they want to remodel or do any alteration, potentially they might have to pay extra for CEQA. That's what you say?
If they are asking for any kind of discretionary approval, yes, they will.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
I didn't make the law. I'm just telling you what it says.
Was that part of the CEQA done when we did the Lark Allen project then? Or the church?
There was some discussion. That is one of the.
There was some discussion, but was that part of the CEQA analysis they did?
If there was a part of the CEQA, we had to do a CEQA analysis for that, yes. There was still the question, that was one of the projects that was brought up from the LA Conservancy arguing against that.
Right,
and we hadn't done any former study, so it looked like it was a knee-jerk reaction to a development proposal as opposed to a forthrightly or forethought in looking at the city as a whole and determining what is important to us as a historical structure. And there could be a difference in those things.
Yeah, but I guess...
There is,
I'm sorry.
I apologize. You mentioned a church, and so I just wanted to give there is a statutory exemption by which religious properties can exempt themselves from historic designation.
Okay. Yeah, but I guess that's part of my question on this is that the property owner, when we do this study, they're not going to have any say whether they want to be part of this or not, right? We're just going to go and decide that they're historic.
Not necessarily.
Evaluate them and find out. No. We're going to evaluate whether or not they're historic without them even really knowing it.
We're going to evaluate it, but what is determined and where we go from there is completely up to the council and we can invite whoever and that can be part of it.
I understand that part of it, but at the same time, if they've been designated as a possibility, isn't that something that even if we don't do anything, that can be used to limit their ability to develop that piece of property? Just because we designated,
possible.
We didn't do anything.
However,
and so,
if it's 50 years old or older, with a discretionary project, they're going to have to do the CEQA anyway. So that part of it is really out of our hands, This is a more efficient way and often will rule out properties before they have to even be concerned about it. In Whittier is a very good example. They found a number of the properties that were potentially eligible had lost their architectural integrity over the years by already having been remodeled in a number of ways. And so those properties were able to be, sort of off the hook, if you will, for future changes as a result.
Yeah. My question deals with, as was pointed out, this is where there's rapid growth in the city of West Covina. So, I mean, my neighborhood's a historic neighborhood, right? I still have the same historic living that was there, I mean, there's, when we deal with history, it's not just necessarily the age. I just don't understand, this consultant's going to look at every single one of the houses on my street and decide if any of them are historic.
Well,
I mean, is that what I'm talking about? I mean,
there could be such a thing as a historic
tract.
If it's the run-of-the-mill, no offense, sort of 50s, 60s tract, that's fairly unusual. Typically, when you have, then it's a specific like craftsman style or something like that.
Or by an architect of note.
Of renown, yes.
I'm sure mine was.
But with respect to the other thing is that one of the things they look for is sort of the uniqueness or the high quality exemplar, if you will. So if you're in a street with,
no, the unique houses on my street, the unique house on my street, deals more with code enforcement than it does anything else. So it's not like that. But I mean, when we deal with the historic stuff, I'm also thinking, it could be a newer place if that was someplace where something important happened, an event happened, and so not necessarily the age of the building or something, important happened there.
No,
so I think,
you're right.
So I guess I'm a little leery about doing this, but I'm also, questioning whether or not we need to do it this year, as far as, is this something that can be put off to next year, and knowing that individual property owners, if they had to do it, could do it on their own, just as far as money issues as well. Correct. And that's, I guess, the other question I had about that. I mean, does it have to be done this year? Is that something that has to be done?
Well, before we go on, we're focusing on residential, but this is also commercial.
I understand. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure the rest of the council understands that too, because if you have new developments coming into town for commercial and the study hasn't been done, that opens that up to legal challenge potentially for those developments. So anytime you delay, you're absolutely right. We could delay this, but you still open up the city to risk of a lawsuit on development.
Well, not necessarily the city, depending on.
Well, no, the project or delaying the projects.
Right. No, I get that. And every project, from what I can tell, contains possible legal risk. The way it works in California. So I'm just trying to figure out, what if necessary to do now, but I guess the scope of it, and just trying to figure out. What and how it plays out, I think, is still a concern of mine. Anyways, so I'll stop there.
Okay, I want to follow through. Okay, Councilman Spence. Okay, the same concern I have. Okay, is we have so many old homes. Okay, myself. Okay, back in before 2001, when I moved in West Covina, 1989, I live in 1945-50 home. Okay, and the entire area is a tract home, and they have a CCNR and still quite illegal. They say no minority allowed. So this is and I read through the CCNR bylaw. Okay, in that 235 leaf. Okay, north of West Covina. Okay, and high school. So that entire complex over there is all home. Okay, everybody's trying to modernize. Okay, and put the insulation. And then when you're talking about if you depend on the age, age of 50 years, or higher, then it becomes subject potential CEQA. And this I don't think is reasonable because entire Southern California we have way too many old homes. Okay, and then meaning everybody have to do a CEQA, cost extra money, delay their remodernize their home, upgrade their living standards or changing the look a little bit nicer. But all the look still have to go to planning department, for the city to approve anyway. So I don't know why, okay, this doesn't even make too much sense to me that we have to find, okay, a historical building, and if you go to the age, an entire city, maybe 40% of property is historical building. Okay, so this doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I don't know why we have to do this and how to identify by this consulting company what kind of method, okay, and they will identify this building will be, well, we have to keep the look because this and that, they might be compliant to a lot of property, cannot even touch the outside, okay, and hopefully they want to enjoy a different look than currently what they have.
Well, the one thing to keep in mind that we did, in 2006, we surveyed about 300 properties, and 33 of them were selected as good examples for historical reasons, not 40%. And this 33 out of 300, so closer to 10%. And that's going to be a lot higher number in that narrow range of that older houses than we're going to come. It's going to be a low percent. I think you're thinking that we're going to come in with 50% or that all tracts. It has to be very unique or by an architect, and most tract homes are not. 99% of tract homes are not built by architects.
Yeah, so you're talking about even 10% of West Covina home potentially will be the historical building?
No, I'm telling you that's unlikely. I'm telling you that was for pre-1945 that was the case, but between 45 and 68, I don't think it's going to be. It may be less than 1%.
If you go to 10%, we become San Marino.
Yes. Well, and this is not, it's not necessarily a science. Just because something is old doesn't make it classic, right? And so just because something old doesn't make it historic. It has to have other things that come along with it. And that's what this study is, to determine what other things might come along. And so it's also a chance for the city to look and say, this is historic, it's meaningful for the city, we want to preserve that. But that's going to be a very few in a city like West Covina. But most cities have done that and determined that this is a historic thing that we think should be preserved for historical reasons for the good of West Covina. So that's part of the discussion. That's up to the council, not up to me.
Yeah, Mr. Wu, I think what you're saying is actually the reason why we need this study. That it's going to say, okay, I'm going to go look at every house and every commercial property that's basically built before 1968, because we're going back 50 years. So could those houses qualify? Yes, but in addition to just saying these houses are over or this property is more, this building is more than 50 years old, what significance is there, if any? Most won't have any significance just because it was built before 68. And even if they say there is the possibility, it's still up to this council to decide, is that significance important or not? I mean, that's why we were able to keep the Taylor house, because we felt that that was significant, and we moved it, and we've saved it, and we've preserved some history of West Covina. By not doing this, every person that has a house built before 1968 is going to spend a lot of time and a lot of money having to do a separate CEQA analysis because the house is more than 50 years old, and then the planning commission and then maybe the council is going to have to come to us individually to make those individual determinations. So you talk about trying to be more business friendly and more residential friendly. By not doing this, we are making it a lot more difficult and a lot more expensive. So that's why I have made a motion, and I'm looking for a second.
Yeah, I think what we don't want to do is to create uncertainty in the market. And by ignoring this and putting it off, you're creating uncertainty in the market for homeowners, for developers, for commercial property, et cetera. People don't want to invest money or look at a thing if they're not sure what's going to happen. And when you have to do it individually for every case, you're creating a lot of uncertainty and a huge amount of potential money that you have to invest for an outcome that you don't know what you're going to get, right? That's what you want, an efficient market in terms of these kinds of transactions, and that's what this is sort of aimed to do. My home was built in the 50s, which I think a huge number of houses in West Covina were built in the 50s. It's a nice home, I think. I seriously doubt it's historic because it looks like a lot of other nice homes. homes, and just based on my understanding of criteria, actually this got me curious because it hasn't really come up for our council as far as I can remember this historically. Maybe it has in passing, but I actually went to our website and I looked up this because I saw there were 33 homes determined to be potentially eligible, and so actually there's a whole document on those on our website, and I was like, I remember that house because when I walked in West Covina, they stood out to me. They stood out because they were historically, they looked, you could tell they were different. They were different from the neighborhood. They stood out as particularly old, the craftsman style. I remember telling one owner, you have a beautiful house. And it turns out that the house's picture is one of these 33 here because I remembered it because it really stood out. So I don't think the fears that there may be there for what this could mean, I don't think that you're going to find that there is something to be fearful along those lines. Yeah, age is a factor, but it goes well beyond age. And as Jeff, the planning director, said, a lot of homes that were built prior to 46, that's when individual architects and things, more individualized, customized homes were built. Once you got into 50s, most of our houses were built by tracts, and so they're a lot more homogeneous or have the same sort of look and feel as each other in the neighborhood. So I think it's very different. I wouldn't expect the percentage to be nearly what was done before 1946. That said, I have no problem putting this off if there's other additional questions for some sort of other expertise, but I would agree that this should be done because for the market and to help out the residents and developers who want to look at this and to figure out what the historic resources are in West Covina as well. So I will second it.
Okay, before we have a vote, I just want to make a statement too. The house right across the street from me is the first house ever built in that neighborhood. They had all the orange groves there. They had their own water well. And so this house could fall into that category. They have modified the inside, but they've never touched the outside. So, and it's on a double lot. So I think this is a house that I would never want to see torn down because that's a lot of history over there. So saying that, and I do understand some of the other houses, we're talking this house in the early 40s that was built right there. So we have a motion and we have a second. We have a roll call, please.
Spence? No. Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 3-2. Now that's the end of our consent calendar. Now we should go to public hearings. Item number 18. City Manager, who should give the report on this?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, since this is a public hearing, we're going to ask the city clerk if she can verify that it's been noticed.
So verified.
All right, Mr. Mayor, and this evening we're doing the establishment of new fees and changes to existing fees and fines as part of a public hearing. I'm going to have our new finance director, Marcy Medina, present that report. And while she's getting set up, we do have other departments will be made available to answer questions as the City Council may deem that necessary.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. The public hearing tonight is in regards to our proposed fiscal year 2018-19 fee schedule. These fees are set to recover costs when a particular service is provided to a specific group or individuals. The rates are set to recover the cost of providing such services. On an annual basis, usually at budget time, city staff reviews the fees and makes recommendations. This year, we are recommending 13 new fees. There's a technology fee set to recover costs for technology as it relates to building permits. There's an electric vehicle charging station fee, and there are 11 recommended fire department fees. Of those 11 fees, 8 are for emergency incident fees, 2 are for fire and life safety inspection fees, and there's a voluntary ambulance subscription fee for businesses. As our city manager stated, there's other city staff here to answer any questions that you may have in regards to the proposed fees. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add, thank you, Ms. Medina. The annual fees proposal is for user fees of the city. There is no increase on any of the other user fees. Sometimes we may have increases based on CPI. There's none being proposed this year, other than, as Ms. Medina said, that the changes in the new fees that were presented as part of this year's budget. So these are just a further discussion that we had as when we adopted the budget. We said we'd be bringing back new fees for discussion of the City Council, and tonight is that night for that discussion.
I would like to know, on the 8 emergency incident fees by the fire department, what are those?
Where's Chief Whithorn? I think he's hiding in the back. Here he comes. I'm sure he could give a good presentation on those. Yeah, and if you want to, you want to follow along with the chief, it starts on page 3 of your staff report.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, city staff, and everybody still in attendance. The 8 new emergency incident fees are charged for cost recovery purposes. The proposed fees are less than the actual cost for fire departments to respond to emergency incidents based on a cost study conducted by the fire department. Currently, the West Covina Fire Department responds to a motor vehicle accident, hazardous materials cleanup, a fire, a water incident, or special rescues, and there are no cost recovery efforts. Going forward, the fire department personnel will respond to the same emergency incidents and take the appropriate actions to protect life, property before collecting the identification and insurance of the person or parties involved so that the insurance companies can be billed. Billing insurance companies for the emergency incident allows the fire department to target the negligent party that is responsible for the emergency incident without charging them directly. And the process has a much higher collection rate because most insurance companies cover the costs associated with the fire department response without any adverse effect to the policyholder. If insurance information is unavailable, the fire department will not bill for the response to the emergency incident. Those are the only ones that you wanted, the current 8?
Do we have any more questions for the chief or anyone?
Since you're here, okay, I have a couple questions regarding the increased fee. Okay, I think we want to increase the inspection fee, right? You go to the business and you charge them. It's a new fee, right?
So, yes, we have the new fee, the inspecting of businesses and mercantile occupancies.
Yeah, my question is this. Okay, I remember. Okay, my office being inspected, but I don't remember. Not with Covina. Okay, I don't remember I even pay. Okay, in that city for them to inspect my. My business, my office. So my point is this. Okay, is this common for? Okay, fire department to charge any business, okay, or okay for them to pay, okay, the fee for us to go to inspect, okay, for the premise, make sure everything comply with the safety. Is that including our job, our fire department to inspect the business, office, right? Okay, the premise, rather than we have to charge them, because it sounds like we want to charge everybody. This is my concern, okay? Because it sounds like we want to gouge people rather than really care about, okay, is this place really comply with safety? So can you make an answer? Which city charge this fee?
Oh, there are several cities that charge this fee, and I don't have that in front of me in my staff report. But the typical fee is $100 in Los Angeles County for that, and that's what
we will be charging. So meaning, okay, in a small barber shop, okay, you have to charge $100. Okay, you go to Target, you charge them what, $100. So that's my concern. Okay, I think it's right for us to randomly to check. Okay, and just what happened to Arcadia, Temple City, that their fire department, they're going to door to the business to go inside to check the outlet, to check out the compliance, to make sure that, okay, and the fire distinguished, okay, do they have an expiration date? Okay, but okay, this is their job. Okay, I don't know why we have to charge our business, okay, in West Covina to pay this extra fee. Okay, I don't think it's business friendly, okay, for people to operate in our office, okay, in our city, and have to pay all those kind of different kind of fee, okay, especially for fire department.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is, necessary to charge those fee to those business?
Well, it's necessary for cost recovery. So we have different types of fees. Where the businesses, mercantile, state mandated, and these are all for cost recovery for the engine companies that they go out there, and also for fire prevention.
I don't know what kind of costs, okay, and we have a fire department, we pay the fire, okay, and departments and the staff, okay, the staff, their jobs go outside to make sure our business comply with law. This is your job, okay, and why you get paid for it. Why we have to charge additional for the business to pay for this kind of fee. Again, okay, what I want to be fairness, okay, I'm not so saying, okay, the business shouldn't pay for their fee, okay, but the point is this is a common fee for our business to pay for the inspection, and then, okay, and they have to pay you, they pay $100. Not necessarily you will go there all the time, okay, because you will maybe go there, maybe randomly go there 2-3 years, because we have a 5,000 business. It sounds like you want to charge everybody so we can collect some money for our city based on our current financial statement, okay, situation. So I really cannot support, okay, I don't think this is right, okay, due to our situation, we want to charge fee and here and there. So I think we should go out to check, okay, all the business, okay, and especially, okay, especially for people can go over this shop, we want to make sure the exit is not blocked, make sure the fire distinguish is not expired, okay, and proper outlet that won't cause fire, okay, and this is our job. So why we should charge them fee? This is again my argument. I don't think we should charge them at all, and we should check, okay, and if they violate, then we fine them, okay? If they don't correct, we get a warning, and if they don't comply, then you should fine them and let the fee you should collect, rather than just collect the low-biting business owner to pay for extra money, and then not necessarily you will be there. Especially for mom and pop, those small business, and then all the business in West Covina have to pay those $100, okay? I don't think it makes sense. I have a problem with that fee.
Okay.
Any other questions for the chief?
I want to remind you that these are for cost recovery. If we don't charge for that specific service received by that business or individual, that means the taxpayers pay for that service as a whole. So if we don't charge the fee, then we don't get the cost recovery for that, and everybody else pays.
Okay, my question over here, okay, their job, I think the category their job as a fire marshal or fire department, they have to do inspection, okay, and they have to go to the business, okay, and check. This is their job. It's job criteria. It's not like we ask them to do special. And when you say the taxpayer have to pay for it, I don't understand. Okay, they go to do their job, inspect, we don't pay them extra money. This is their job. During the daytime, they check the business premise, make sure they are safe and sound. What kind of extra charge that we taxpayer have to pay? We already pay their salary, we already pay their engine, we already pay everything overhead. So what kind of additional pay we have to pay for them to inspect do their job?
I think it's no different than someone a plan checker at a counter. If you go and submit plans for development, you're paying for that staff time to review those applications and those projects still. So this is a method that cities, not just West Covina, many cities have adopted as a means to recover their costs of doing business. This is a policy decision. This is not the staff has to make the decision. It's a policy decision of the city council if this is a fee that they wish to charge. But I would say that we are aware of other cities are doing this and the other fees. That's why we are presenting to you as part of the budget, because we discovered that as we're going through finding creative ways to try and find ways to help balance the budget and to seek new revenues for the city as we went and looked at what other cities are doing.
See, that is a problem I have. You're seeking additional revenue, okay? It's not about public safety. Okay, my concern is the fire department and the police department, okay, or our inspector, okay, co-enforcement, that is doing their job. We didn't ask them to do extra. This is their job. Their job, we pay taxes, pay them, pay you guys to do the job, okay? And now, because they do their job, some entity have to pay extra, okay, it's not right, okay? What I'm saying is that if we already pay them, why, okay, additional, okay, the people have to pay something we already pay for them to do this job. that's my argument. Okay, I know we have this issue. Okay, we have financial stress. We need to recover any potential revenue, and we want to collect. But at the same time, what I'm saying is this is very short-sighted, and we want to have more business come to West Covina. You can see if you go to South Side, all the business living in the South Side, and the North Side, a lot of restaurants have a space. They have hard time to have a business coming in, because people come over here feel like we become very expensive to operate business and very high risk. We want to make sure they come in so we can collect taxes. Again, they can hire employee. So rather than we charge them $100 here, this and that, and kind of upset people, and nobody want to come to West Covina. This is my concern. I understand. I want to collect money too, but I want to collect a way to load them in, to invite them coming in. And more business friendly, and more business coming to us. We can get more money as a business sense. So otherwise you try to squeeze people and peel people's skin, and you're going to discourage people coming in, and we will losing more money. And then this is my concern. How can we balance budget if we cannot have more business come to us?
A question, Chief. If you go out and you inspect a business and they pass the first time, when is the next time you go out there? How often do you go out there?
It'll be annually.
Once a year then?
Once a year.
So, and it's, like you said, roughly around $100, no more than that, or what is it?
That's correct. So the initial inspection is $100 minimum. If they need to come out for a reinspection, it's included with that $100.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I disagree with Mr. Wu. We pay our planning department, we pay our public service department, we pay our maintenance department. We charge fees. And that's what this is. This is a fee. This is a fee for the business side because the residents shouldn't be paying it. This business is going to operate there. This business should pay that particular fee. It protects the city. It protects the business. It makes it easier for them to get insurance because if they're not meeting this standard, they're going to have problems. And if you look at what other cities charges, we have some of the lowest fees in San Gabriel Valley. So I have no problem with these fees, and I think it's the right thing to do to recover some of our costs.
You know, I believe me, I have a position in this debate, but this is a public hearing, so we need to do the public hearing part before we decide everything, don't we? Yep.
Thank you, Chief.
Because I think we're getting a little.
Okay, now I'll open up the public comment. Is there anyone else who'd like to stand up and comment on this? All right.
So one thing I don't see is what it is currently and what is going to be proposed. I understand, I was listening on YouTube that there's certain, like 13 items that are new, but some of these I don't know about. Like if water is on a street, it's $100 for the first charge. By the third, it gets to $500. Azusa Light and Water, I think, gives you a buy on the first time, and then you get charged after that. So are we going to get double hit with Azusa Light and Water if they catch us, and then the city jumps on it too? It's on page 20.
Those are the existing, yeah.
So when was that made aware to the public? So we can get a fine. You know, trash can in the past, it was a warning, and then I guess if you continued, again, it's on there. You know, there's a lot of on here that in the past were warnings. And now all of a sudden we're, you know.
Nothing changed on those. I mean, I'm under Azusa Water too. And I know.
And the guy that.
Now that comes on the patrol, a lot of times they don't even give you a warning anymore. They're in such a drought. They give you a citation the first time. So, but that has nothing to do with what we're doing here on the fees. That's something to do with the water company themselves that bestow fees on you.
But then on top of it, the city can collect another fee.
But not on that, you understand? No.
The difference between, you know, an inspection fee and plan check is plan check, you're expected to pay money. You're expected to do improvements. And typically it schedules, how many outlets, how many diffusers, so on and so forth. That's expected. But just to continue to charge and charge and charge, why don't we reward, like, bringing business in and get the taxes when, one thing is, look at how many accidents we have from people running red lights and stuff. In Glendora, you turn on red, there's a cop at the sheriff's department waiting for you over by Damien. I was in a rush one day, I got hit. I don't see people getting pulled over for traffic violations very much in West Covina anymore. So maybe a different revenue stream to prevent all the accidents. Look how many accidents we've had where cars have turned over in like a month ago. There was like 3, I want to say, in a week. Let's look at safety in a different way rather than try nickel and dime residents. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Uh-oh.
I'm in agreement with Tony Wu. I don't think that you guys should raise fees and talk about passing them on to insurance companies. I mean, that ends up with the consumer, and all these cities are doing that. I'm in District 1, by the way. And all these cities are doing that, and with ambulance fees, and it's just wrong. I mean, we're getting hit everywhere in California on everything, on gas, property taxes. It sounds like it's gonna increase again too. So I'm against it. That's it.
Excuse me. I have problems with some of the fees. I understand. One of the things that I see different between the planning and stuff, you go in there and you're paying at once. These fire fees, as I recall from the previous discussion, we're not even doing it now. Their website is misleading. It sounds like it's being done, but it's not. And I recall hearing that they're planning on hiring somebody to do it. So I just have some concerns. Business will pass these expenses on, and when it's an annual inspection, that is different than walking into the planning department because I'm going to do something. So I think some of these just need to be reviewed. I'd like to see the city business friendly and attract business. I think we get more money that way than if we're unfriendly. And Mr. City Manager, I gave him my card that I received. As a resident, there's an error in the fee schedule, I think. It said, the card that we residents got said $10 alarm registration fee for fire and for police, and this says 25. Pardon? Inflation. I think it's a typo, but I suggest that this gets read for any other typos, because if it gets passed and not corrected, it's $25 when it should be 10. And then that says seniors are 12, and I didn't see that on the card, so I think there might be just some ambiguities. Yeah, maybe the senior went away. Anyway, this is what was in the packet on the website. So anyway, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
Well, I've got a problem with the plan. Following Mr. Wu's train of thought, I think this is kind of dishonest, because at least taxes are voted on, and they're choice of the people. But these administrative fees is a form of double taxation. Give us back some money, because we signed on paying our taxes to support the police department and the fire department. This started out with fees regarding ambulances going out and the person not being able to provide insurance. And it evolved to the police department coming down here and trying to convince us that their response time would improve if they charge us fees when an alarm goes off. I don't think the response time has really improved that much, because we haven't gotten any more police. and we hear the complaints. But this seems to be just an idea, administrative idea to dig into our pockets. And you have to understand, we're already paying taxes, and like someone else earlier said, from every corner of California, we're being drained of our available means. It's kind of silly that it's being done to businesses. When you guys say you're trying to promote friendly West Covina for business, this seems completely a curse on that objective. And then I wonder, if this is for safety reasons, why don't we start investigating every house in West Covina to make sure that their electricals and all the components are safe, and charge them $100. Let's see how long you guys last up here, or anyone you may support for the next council. This is really a disgusting strategy to come up with some money. I don't like taxes, but they're a necessity. But that would be an honest way of getting this money that you need. That's why I supported Toma and Mr. Warshaw when they were going through this budget crisis, and they proposed a general tax. Let the people decide. I wasn't in favor of Mr. Wu and Mr. Spence's opposition to that. But this road that you're headed on, of fees on top of fees, in addition to the taxes that we all signed on for, it's unfair. It's ugly. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? If not, I'll close the public comment. And what I would like to do, I'd like to make a motion to pull this item. I'd like to see it come back at another date for a little bit more information, because I'm not quite sure about all the other fees yet.
Well, what information are you looking for?
Well, I'm just not satisfied.
Did you want to close the public hearing?
I just did.
Okay, sorry. Now, what are the questions? Because I'm trying to find some information. So, for example, the City of Monrovia charges up to $505 a year on an annual fee. Redondo Beach, $114, and it goes up from there. So we'll try to find some.
Second.
Right now, I just feel we don't have the support to let this go. I don't want to kill it right now. I'd rather come back, let's do some more discussion on it on another date. Or maybe we can discuss some of the fees and stuff like that, if we're going to pass them or not, instead of jumping into it, because I don't feel you have the support right now to pass it. And instead of not doing it, I'd like to see it come back and just hold it over. And we can bring it back at another time and discuss it a little bit more. Okay. We have a motion and a second then.
Any direction?
Any more discussion? We closed the public hearing.
The public hearing's been closed. The motion would be to continue the item to a date certain, or to a future meeting, unspecified date?
To a future meeting. It's not a certain date. We just have to discuss it and figure it.
If we do that, we do have to repost and renotice and rehearing. So there's a
No,
cost.
it's a public hearing. If they close the public hearing, we've completed the public hearing.
Okay. You already closed it.
No extra testimony?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Is that roll call?
Spence? Aye. Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
No.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 4-1. Please.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just wanted to answer the question on the water. That is not for using water. That was imposed because the state years ago imposed that if you have a swimming pool, you cannot dump that water into the street. And so that's basically what the fine is if you're dumping water from a pool into the street.
Don't we need to put off item 20 or 19 as well?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So, are you just going to pull that, or do you want a motion, or just pull it?
No, we can just pull it.
Okay, now we're going to do item number 20 is, I think this is Mike Spence. Councilman Spence.
Yeah, this is, I used to have this agendized. A lot of prosecutors are concerned that Governor Brown's going to commute all the sentences of everyone that is on death row. And there are at least 3 people from West Covina who they're murderers are still on death row, and one of them, of course, was the Michael Jackson, who killed Officer Reedy. Wrestling gun, there's no dispute about that. Raymond Shield, who was a good Samaritan and was an activist in the community at the Holiday Inn, as he dropped his family off to take a shuttle so they could go to the airport. Some people on a robbery spree, shotgunned him. And then a new one, Simran Bell, he actually killed 4 people, part of a stolen check and some kind of scheme, and one of them happened to be from West Covina as well, Mario Laris. And so there's no dispute. I know someone brought up people that were on death row that shouldn't be. There's no dispute about that these people were the murderers of people here in West Covina, and I think we should send a letter to Governor Brown asking him not to commute those sentences. I do want to make a little change in the letter, though, where it says to, know that the murderers will stay on death row. I don't want them necessarily to stay on death row. I want them to finally be executed, because that's actually where there's justice. I remember in Kevin Cooper, the guy who escaped from Chino Hills to Chino Prison, and he slaughtered a family. And the one son who lived, and he watched his friend bleed out, and then his parents, of course, were killed. He says every time, this issue gets brought up, he has to relive it, and because, this hasn't been done. Justice hasn't been done until it's over, until they're executed. And so there's no doubt that these 3 individuals murdered people here in West Covina, including Officer Reedy. And I'd like to move that we do send a letter to Governor Brown, asking him not to commute the sentences, but to change the language so that it's actually that the death penalty is followed, implemented.
Second.
Any other comment? Okay.
Yeah, I actually read a long investigative piece on that Chino Hills one, and I know that there was actually a lot of evidence and question as to whether they got the right guy. It was a really good investigatory article. There's probably hundreds of people on death row. We don't know the facts about each of them. So
we know about 3 of them.
Well, okay. So then I would say I would offer an amendment that we make it specific to West Covina and limit it to those 3 persons.
That's what it is.
It says urges you not to expand your commutation of sentences to include any people currently on death row.
If you want to make it to these 3, that's fine.
Okay.
But I mean, I think we're focused on these 3 in West Covina.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
let's see if it comes for it.
Yeah, if it's limited to those 3, it's fine.
Mr. Wood doesn't want to do that, so since he seconded the motion.
What?
Then I'll second the motion with the amendment.
Fine. I mean, I'm fine either way.
Are you happy with the amendment? It's your.
Well, those are the 3 we're talking about from the city of West Covina, but I don't think it should commute the sentences for everybody. No, it shouldn't.
So you want to reduce the sentence for everybody, or you just want 3 from West Covina? You want to specify your motion?
Well, those are part of the 3, but I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem leaving it the way it is. As long as.
I think you leave like this.
Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay, then not pass, then we go to the amendment.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Wait, so doesn't the amendment comes first?
If there's a second to it.
Right. Oh, okay, right. So I made an amendment.
I second it.
I seconded it.
Okay, now we have an amendment.
Vote on the amendment.
And we have a second.
Yes,
So that one goes up first. Okay, we have a roll call.
Spence.
No.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Wu.
No.
Johnson.
No. That fails 3-2. Now we go back to the original motion by Councilman Spence. We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call.
Spence.
Aye.
Toma.
Abstain.
Warshaw.
No.
Wu.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye. It passes 3-1-1. Okay, now we go to item number 21. Which that will be mine. After we had that last one, this is about for the reorganization of the council afterwards. After we did it last time, I've heard from quite a few residents. And they're not very happy with this council. They say we're playing too many games, that we have to make a decision. And the decisions they want to know what the rotation is going to be before the election. You know what? And I don't have a problem with it. I think we ought to do something, how we do it, how we figure it out. It's going to be up to the council. Draw straws, flip a coin. I don't care how we do it. Something has to be done. So I think, so my motion would be is that, unless I have anybody else who wants, I want to make a motion that we, my motion is going to be, is that we do a rotation, however we do it, before the election, on the next, it will be the mayor pro tem, because we have to understand something. Mayor pro tem Wu is going to be the mayor in 2020, no matter what. Now we have three districts that are up for election. We have 2, 4, and 5. Now, I can't see into the future. I just never know who's going to win District 5 besides Mayor Pro Tem Wu. But I'm not saying, I'm just saying if anything would happen, so it would have to be, whatever it does, you'd have to draw for 2, 4, and 5. But now, if Councilman Wu is reelected, then I predicted your new mayor, the Mayor Pro Tem after him, he'd have to come from 2 or 4 because he's already in 5. In 2020, he'll be the mayor, and he will already be in District 5. So Mayor Pro Tem would have to come from 2 or 4, and 1 and 3 will follow that suit. If any other, oh yeah, that's what it's going to be. Reconsider the vote. Okay. So first of all, before we go with we're going to vote on that first, and then we'll move it from there.
You have a second? Okay. I have a statement. Okay. The reason. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. I understand. Okay. How we have to go through my last votation. But the point is this. Okay. I've been saying like previous 2 times. Okay. This should be led after November. Let the new council to decide about this, because the future majority maybe they will have a different thinking. They maybe change what we're doing today. So what we're doing today, waste of time, because in November the new majority say, oh, I don't like the previous city council decide our fate. We decide to do something. We want to flip the coin. Okay, and then 3 city councils say, okay, let's flip a coin. We don't want the previous city council to decide for us. Then boom, what we're doing decision today is totally wasted. That's my point. Okay, I have no problems after 2020 they become this and that. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Mayor position is just a symbolic ceremony. It's not really. We still 1 vote. But my point is, it's really not a big deal at all. But my point is still. The future majority or future council, they should have the right to decide what their rotation and then to decide. Okay. So anyway, this is my argument. Okay. Thank you. Okay. We had a motion and a second. Any other comment? If not, let's have roll. Yes. Okay.
So what the mayor just suggested makes some sense, I think. And if we decided that before we actually knew the number of people running, I think that would have made a total sense, but I thought we decided that we were going to go with the system that we had. So it's like we had the system that we had. It was random because we didn't know how many people were going to jump into each race. And so there was a randomness to it. It was whoever was going to be the highest vote getter. We don't know who that is because we don't know how many people are running. It made sense to me. It's just as good as picking out of a hat as far as I could tell. But once we knew the number, and nobody made a motion to change that order before we actually, I don't remember the motion. But once we then knew how many people were running, then somebody decided this was very upsetting and that we needed to change it. So you have information now. You realize that the district is not to your suiting in terms of the potential outcomes, and then you want to change it. So that's my only situation. I don't think there's anything wrong with what the mayor just suggested. Seems like as fair as any. I have a problem with deciding it after you get information that suggests what the probabilities are and then deciding to change it. And that's my only beef with the change.
Yeah, I just want to state for the record, I did make a motion.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, that we do it by district numbers on the districts first. This was before, right.
Okay. And the majority of the council decided that not to do it, right?
So that's a good argument. And please understand, I'm going to be down on the bottom somewhere. So, between 2, 4, and 5, I'm going to be either 1 or 3 at the end of it. So it makes... I'm assuming I will. I'm going to fight real hard for it, put it that way. Okay? Okay, I have a motion and a second. So roll call, please.
Spence. Aye. Toma.
No.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Wu.
Nope.
Johnson.
Aye. Passes 3-2.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Marshall.
I'd like to, can we vote on how we want to do that now? Or do we have to agendize it?
Well, we're going to need to bring back an ordinance.
Right.
So what we need is direction from you as to what you want us to put in it.
Right. So the way I would like to see it, since after you're finished as mayor in a little over a year, Mayor Pro Tem Wu will be that. He might be from District 5. So I think the easiest way to do it is you would take 5 and then 4, because he would have been, if nothing changed on this council, he would have been after Tony. And then you go 2, because 2 is the last one in this election. And then you can either go, I would say 3-1, because you should be at the end of the rotation since you're mayor right now. So I would recommend 5, 4, 2, 3, 1.
That's all except we have to also consider that if Mayor Pro Tem wins, am I correct, we will have to appoint a council member. And not large council members. That could change everything.
You wouldn't have to do that if you implemented that starting in 2020.
Why would you put 5 first then? So if you put 2 years.
Because if he gets 5, that's fine.
No, but he goes 2 years in a row then. Starts 2020.
No, if it's implemented in 2020 and.
Right.
Then he would be in 5.
He's going to be mayor in,
Well, that's
in
why
2020. He's going to be mayor in 2020.
No, he's going to be mayor in 2020,
Right,
which is
that's why I
correct.
say,
But that's why I say if we're appointing someone, then we go 1 and then 3 at the last, because that'd be a person we're appointing. It won't be an elected official for 2 years. What if we appoint somebody from 3? I'm just saying, what if somebody comes up and we appoint him from 3?
That's one of the mistakes I think people make during this whole election. They keep saying, you know, like I'm an incumbent and he's an incumbent. We're not incumbents.
Right.
We're not incumbents because it's the first time there's been district elections.
Right.
It's the first time there's been district elections. Yeah, so I mean, so the person who's appointed will not be assigned to a district.
That is correct. Any person appointed to fill a vacancy created by Mr. Wu winning District 5 will no vacancy.
So they don't get to be mayor.
Right, so they wouldn't get to be mayor.
That works.
Okay. So,
I'll second that.
what's the motion?
Make it 5, 4, 2, 3, 1.
Yeah, but starting in
the
2020. The year part's the question, I guess.
Starting in 2020.
Yeah, but 2020 to 5 goes.
Okay, let's stop a minute.
It's 19 November.
Let's have time out a second.
19 November.
Okay.
Yeah.
19 November.
Mayor Pro Tem will be mayor in 2020. But now,
19 November.
so now, for some great thing out of the sky, and say Fred Sykes wins. So that.
I think it'd be fun.
No, wait a minute. So now you're the mayor after him would be Mayor Pro Tem Sykes out of District 5.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The way you worded it, though, it sounds like it's Wu then Wu, if Wu to Wu.
Or Wu then Sykes.
Yeah, can you have 2 years?
Wouldn't be Wu and Wu.
Be Wu then Sykes
If you
Sykes
start in
would win.
2020.
I'm just saying we can.
It would be.
Yeah,
It's still
that's what I'm saying.
basically keeping the seniority that way.
Flip a coin or draw straws or draw cards or whatever you want to do. I don't want to set right there. I think if you guys want to flip a coin, we'll flip a coin. Whatever you guys want to do. I don't care how we do it. But I just think it has to be done.
Well, you have to eliminate the vote count threshold.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, eliminate the vote count.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I would think from the discussion, the city attorney and I have enough direction. We come back with some options perhaps for you.
Okay.
So we don't have that this dialogue tonight?
Please do, yes. Let's bring it back for the, yes, okay. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Now, thank you on that one. Wow. Whew. It's hard getting past that one. Now, number 22 is the Councilman James Tillman. This is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a reference already, I think, to the homelessness meeting that a couple of residents called. Most all of us were there, and one of the issues that came up was businesses and some frustration with concentrated businesses, maybe the people there not knowing what to do in terms of the services that are available for homeless persons, either with the city or outside the city. And so just following up on that, I would like to get would seek a staff to come back to us with a program to educate businesses about what they can do with respect to the problems of homelessness.
Is that a Mother May you're asking for?
I'm sorry, it is a Mother May.
And I'll second.
Mr. Tillman?
Oh,
Can I ask a question to that? Because one of the things that's been bothering me that I know I've talked to Chris about, but I mean the city manager, but we haven't dealt with it because of the downtown plan and stuff, is that we do, as long as it's part of this, we do have to do something to find a way that the sidewalks in front of those businesses on Glendora can be leased, or somehow that the business can have control over them, because right now they don't, over the sidewalks, because they're considered public property because the city owns them, which means they don't have the same rights as people that other businesses have the sidewalks as far as control over them. And I'd like to look at that as part of that, because we have to find a way to help the business there. It doesn't necessarily deal with homeless, it deals with anyone who may loiter there or trespass and those kind of things. They can't, enforce that if it's public property, the cities, so. As long as it's part of that.
That could be to sell the property if we have to.
I don't know, have some way to do something.
Right, but something to look at.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
As long as that's part of it.
Okay, so we have that's a Mother May, and I second. Do we have to vote on that?
I think we're all.
It's all in agreement? Okay, bring it back. Okay, that's the end of our, do we have any council members' comments on anything? Councilman Warshaw, I know you had something. You remember what you wanted to talk about?
So I attended the meeting of our police volunteers today, and while talking to them, I found out that we have started to do fingerprinting, life scan, again, at our police department. It's actually being done by some of our volunteers, and it's done on Thursday evenings from 5 to 9 o'clock. All you have to do is go to the police department if you need it. So if you're a notary, you have to do it. If you're a real estate agent, you have to do it. If you're a nurse and renewing your nursing license, you have to do it. If you are a member of a sports league, teachers, you can go right to our city hall on Thursday nights. There's a processing fee, which is $20, which is cheaper than a lot of the other ones. And then you also have to pay whether you require a DOJ check or an FBI check. I don't currently have those prices, but I've asked our city manager, once we find those out, to have those posted on both our police website and also the city website. You do have to pay cash, and you need the exact amount when you go, but it will make it a lot easier. We stopped doing life scanning in the city probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and so it's nice to see it back, and it's nice to see our police volunteers running it. So I just wanted to notify everybody that it is back. Thank you.
Councilman Smith.
Yeah, I think on a future agenda, this issue about settlements and how we disclose them and stuff, I'd like to see the council talk about on how we can deal with that. And also, when we're dealing with affordable housing, I think we need to take a look at Prop 10, because Prop 10, if it passes, would really hurt affordable housing. So I'd like to see that agendized. But there's been a couple new laws implemented, and I don't know, one, of course, there's been a lot of publicity about the sidewalk vending stuff that allows cities to develop regulations, and so we probably need to go through that process and figure that out, what we're going to do. But the other thing is SCA 20, and that's going to change how sales tax is allocated, and actually benefit us, I think, because it's supposed to be from where stuff is delivered to, not where it was sold from. So we're not a warehouse city, but, all our stores probably, deliver and, that kind of stuff. So it should be some kind of net benefit. Was looking at different scenarios. Didn't have one that fit West Covina, but I don't know if HDL has done something on that. But that's something that, at least is good news, the state did for a change. That might help us. So anyways, that's all I have.
Is there any other councilman comments or anything?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make an announcement.
Yes,
the rest
you may.
of the council is concluded. I've notified the council, and I am now advising the public that I will be stepping aside as city attorney. I am going to be needing to have at least 2 surgeries in the next 6 months, and I cannot devote the kind of time and attention to the city that I think it deserves. We have proposed another team that the council will be considering with a contract amendment. I propose to bring that forward at the next council meeting. And I just want to tell you what an honor and a privilege it has been to serve as your city attorney. What I am proposing is once you do, if you do approve the contract amendment, that we would bring forward to appoint Scott Porter as your city attorney. Many of you have already met him. And we will be adding a second assistant city attorney, Carmen Vasquez. It won't cost any more money. It's just to make sure that the city receives the full service that it really, I think, needs and deserves. But that we would be making that changeover sometime in the next couple of months. So, again, I thank you for my time here.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? If not, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Seeing no objections, we're adjourned.